Hi, I'm
Oh,
Greg.
Jamie.
I'm the former lead singer for Lipstick because that band isn't active anymore and basically ceases to exist, including on streaming services.
Hi, I'm Steve, bassist for whatever it is that Greg just said.
And welcome to the Lipstick Panel, this totally active podcast that will come back every time a great rock star dies. So, about once a week, new episodes of the Lipstick Panel. Today on the Lipstick Panel, we are paying tribute to the late great Meat Loaf about a month later because all of us were too busy to meet up on Skype. Yeah, way too busy for that. But yeah, we're talking about Bat Out of Hell 2, classic album with maybe some controversial opinions on the panel. Let's go ahead and introduce our guest. Hey, oh look, wearing a Kiss t-shirt is Victor Kraus. Victor, welcome back to the show.
Hey, I'm wearing a Kiss t-shirt.
And not wearing a Kiss t-shirt is Julia.
It's me. I thought Gene Simmons was the one who died, hence the shirt.
We've got Michael Walsh returned to the program. Welcome back, Michael Walsh.
What's going on, gentlemen and Julia?
Gentlemen and Julia. Jamie Donnelly is with us for now until his baby starts crying. Welcome back to the show, Jamie.
Thanks for having me. She has gone to sleep, so she probably won't wake up and cry because she's good like that.
Aw.
The positive news, though, is that we've got the second generation of lipstick panelists breeding right now.
Right.
It's like Kiss 2.0, right? Except this one might happen.
That is honestly a frightening thought of our descendants continuing this, at best, mediocre podcast.
Maybe they could rank all of the podcasts that we've done.
Oh, there you go. And do commentary tracks for them.
Daddy,
Exactly.
why were your friends so obsessed with Sonic porn?
Great stepson, like, commenting on these things.
And hey, that other voice, that's Gavin. Welcome to the show, Gavin.
What's up, ladies and Victor, Mike, Jamie, Steve, and Greg?
And after that awkward train wreck of an intro, let's talk about... Oh, okay. And after that, message in the chat distracted me.
We handled that so smoothly. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
All right, so after that train wreck of an intro... Damn it. All right.
You can just ignore when somebody posts something in chat, Greg, and keep talking over them.
I could.
You literally have a microphone.
All right. Yeah, so this is supposed to be a somewhat like mournful, respectful tribute of Meat Loaf, but we're far enough removed from it where it's just stupid jokes.
So let's open up DeviantArt.
Also, let's be honest. Like, I feel like
Hedgehog.
as with Steinman, the best way to honor Meat Loaf's life is a lot of really dumb jokes.
As
This is a man who has been interviewed saying, like, I'm trying to get healthier, so I'm losing as much weight as I can while still keeping the nickname Meat Loaf.
Every joke dumber than every joke else, right?
I would do anything for a laugh.
So typically we start these episodes by going around the panel and talk about our history with the band and the album. You know what? Let's start with Steven Smith for people who haven't listened to the show before. What's your history with Meat Loaf and this album in particular?
So the first time I can distinctly remember hearing a Meat Loaf song, specifically one that was on this album, was when I was in middle school. We went on a field trip to see Up With People, which was like this humanist performing arts, song and dance thing where they had like a diverse bunch of people get on stage and, do really, really wholesome, like middle school, like go out and live your life and be a good person and kind to everyone kind of stuff. And they closed with Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through. And I was like, oh, this sounds vaguely familiar. And then eventually I would go on to actually start listening to Meat Loaf and really fell in love with the song I Would Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That. In college, we had the friend who had the van that we drove around everywhere and for band stuff and whatever. And he had 2 cassette tapes in this car, one of which was Vanilla Ice's tape, whatever that was called, which I listened to for the first time all the way through getting in that car and was like, oh, Ice Ice Baby was the peak of this album, and the other one was Bad Outta Hell 2, whereupon we would just listen to I Would Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That, and then get a little ways into Life is a Lemon before the trip would end, and then we just rewind the tape when we got in the car again. So yeah, I Would Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That, and eventually got around to listening to the rest of the album over the years, and like a lot of it's on moderately heavy rotation in my various playlists, including several on the one that I listen to with my partner of songs that are dramatic.
Which I assume just several Steinman songs.
There's a lot of Steinman on that list.
All right, and shifting gears, let's go with Michael Walsh. What's your history with Bad Out of Hell 2 and Meat Loaf?
So, my first memory of Bad Out of Hell 2, well, it's also probably one of the earlier memories of Meat Loaf for me. Back in the 90s when I was getting into a bunch of rock music, people would say, oh, you really like this band? Well, you should check out this band. And Meat Loaf was one of the early suggestions that someone had made to me since they knew I liked 70s rock music. And I can't remember exactly which came first, if my friend Derek showed me a little bit of the first Bad Out of Hell in his parents' family room one day, or if I got Bad Out of Hell 2 from the library one day. But I know I got Bad Out of Hell 2 from the library. Thought the album cover looked really cool. And as was fairly common for me back in the day, I didn't sit and listen to albums. I had like album ADD back then, which is crazy because now I like have to listen to an album straight through. But back then I would pretty much just seem to hone in on one or two songs. And definitely the song of that maybe week-long library rental for me was Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through. So I just like put that on repeat over and over. I was like, this is a really cool song. So I don't even really remember, like, have recollections of that album, like even though I had it for a week. But I came around listening to the whole thing probably years later.
So I picked this up because it had the coolest cover ever. Is probably the most Mike Walsh intro to an album that I could possibly think of.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I've done the same thing, but also I've picked up albums that I thought would be ridiculous based upon the cover, like the first Starcastle record, where I'm like, I know exactly what this sounds like based on not hearing a single note, and then, yep, it sounded like the album cover. I guess I'll go next. So this was probably my first formal introduction to Meat Loaf's music, in that I'd heard the I'd Do Anything for Love song, at least snippets, on the radio over the years. But I wasn't necessarily a Steinman fan when I first heard the album. And when this was maybe the first, Jim Steinman album I heard in its completion. I borrowed the CD from my uncle, burned it to my computer, so I had it in my library, and it made no sense to me, and I didn't like it aside from Wasted Youth and Back into Hell. I thought the songs were too long and confusing, and
Wait, what?
Yeah, this was
Wasted Youth and Back into Hell were the two standouts. I just want to make sure I heard that right.
Yes,
the songs were two songs.
Okay. No, okay. I just wanted to clarify.
This was before I had become really a music fan, and so it was more just like, seeing like the kind of music other people had, and I didn't have the sophisticated taste to appreciate what the album offered. And so, like, as like a little like 12-year-old, I'm just like, I just don't understand this. Why are these songs so long and so boring?
12-year-old Greg didn't understand dick jokes.
Right, did not. And then after becoming a mega Jim Steinman fan, revisiting the album, I realized, like, oh, half these songs are redone on other albums much better. So I don't really need much of this album because I have all these great songs just done better on other albums, and I can just listen to those in the entirety. But there are some essential cuts on this. So in terms of the greater Steinman Meat Loaf catalog, it's not at the bottom, but it's like definitely like middle of the pack, maybe low mids. Like some highlights, some essential cuts, but is it better than Pandora's Box? No. Is it better than Bad for Good, my favorite album of all time? Of course not. Is it better than the original Bad Out of Hell? No. Is it better than Bad Out of Hell 3? So here's the trick. Yes, but I think Bat Out of Hell 3 is a more interesting album to listen to in the way that, like, The Elder is more less interesting than Sonic Boom. Like, is it better? You can debate, but is it more interesting? Definitely. And so this is the Sonic Boom of the Meat Loaf catalog. It gets the job done.
Well, you said a lot of wild stuff in the last minute or two, and I don't even need to address each point. I actually wanted to be fair to something you said because it kind of relates to why when I got it from the library that I didn't end up soaking a lot of it in was because I also kind of thought like, oh wow, these songs are so long, and they I wasn't just getting hit with like an instant smoke on the water riff, which is like what was comfortable and familiar to me back then, and kind of still is. Just really quick, recognizable riffs. And for whatever reason, even though Rock and Roll Dreams Come True doesn't start with a riff like that either, that one just hooked me. But I get what you're saying, where for a new listener, if you're not really familiar, you're gonna be like, what am I hearing right now? It's a lot. So it is a lot to take in. But as for the rest of what you said, maybe we'll get to some of that throughout
I'm sure we'll get.
I mean, we don't call him Hot Take Troyan for nothing.
I would say that, it wasn't love at first listen. Like, the first time I heard the song Bat Out of Hell, I was like, this is one of the greatest things I've ever experienced in my entire life. This is fucking awesome. I am in. Like, I remember when I was first listening to the album, skipping around through the songs, like, why are all these parts slow? And why is it so long if it's so slow? So yeah, it didn't make sense to me, but we'll get to the commentary as we get to the individual songs. But I mean, I still like the album. It's still a very good album, but it wasn't the best exposure. Like, it's not a good starting point for becoming a Jim Steinman Meat Loaf fan. And let's go ahead and move on to Jamie Donnelly. What are your thoughts on this record, sir?
Well, a couple of things prior to get into what I think about the record. First of all, Greg, I've really missed the bullshit that you come out with. It's wonderful. I mean, my favourite part of that was when Greg suggested that his taste had gotten more sophisticated since he first heard Bat Out of Hell 2, and then went on to talk about The Elder for a change. So that was fantastic. If anybody's playing the Lipstick Panel drink-along game, they'll no doubt be pissed now, because Greg hit all of them out of the park straight away. Anyway, yeah. There you go. Have some gentle tickling from me. So I loved Bat Out of Hell 2 the first time I heard it, but I didn't come to the album till probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I got into music via music videos, which is how I got into Kiss. So kind of I was always attracted to like really cool music videos, and I remember the music video to "I Would Do Anything for Love." Saying that, I haven't seen it in a long time, but isn't it just Beauty and the Beast? Am I right in remembering that? Yeah. So I remember the music video.
Of Beauty and the Beast, much hornier.
Well, two of my main interests, beasts and horniness. So that was very relevant to me, kind of seeing it, and I thought that was excellent. And I loved Bat Out of Hell, the album, the first time I heard it. I thought it was amazing because it was just kind of like it was like a film in album form. But yeah, I kind of heard Bat Out of Hell 2 for the first time, like I said, 4 or 5 years ago, driving back from a gig. After driving to this city called Manchester that a band called Bent Knee are playing at in May, seeing a black metal band called Behemoth, drinking far too much, staying over in a hotel, and then driving back incredibly hungover. And me and my mate listened to Bat Out of Hell 2 all the way home to perk us up, and it did. It made us feel a lot better. It's a brilliant album, and I think it's one of the best sounding albums ever made. I genuinely believe that. I think it sounds better than Bat Out of Hell.
You're just genuinely correct about that. Amazing production on this.
It sounds incredible, doesn't it? I put it on
the worst produced Bat Out of Hell album.
If
is one of the other two, because it's not this one.
Yeah, it's definitely not. It's definitely not this one. It sounds amazing. And yeah, it's just wonderful. It's wonderful. When I put it on the other day to kind of work out what my ranking would be, the ranking that Greg told me was wrong as soon as I sent him it. I thought all I could think was this album sounds absolutely gorgeous. Oh, and my lights have just turned off. But that's automated smart bulbs for you.
Man, the best. I guess we will get into that. I could not vehemently
Greg told you
disagree
you're wrong,
more.
even though you're like 75% right in how you actually ranked things per the consensus.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm mostly. We'll get to that when we get to that. All right. So, Gavin, what is your
Yes.
history with Meat Loaf and this album in particular?
So, Meat Loaf is just one of those people that I had been loosely aware of for probably my entire music-loving life. Rocky Horror Picture Show was a big thing for me early on as a child. So, of course, Meat Loaf was Eddie in that. And, like, I had seen clips of concert footage from him on MTV or VH1. I remember a few times watching most of the made-for-TV VH1 Meat Loaf Story movie, which I think was called To Hell and Back. I remember that. I remember, and I remember there used to be a TV show called Pop-Up Video, and I remember seeing the I Would Do Anything for Love video on Pop-Up Video.
Show's so good.
It was great. I wish that there would be like a compilation album of Pop-Up Video songs that still had the little kind of sound whenever the facts would pop up.
Honestly, somebody just needs to build an API that combines music videos from YouTube and their Genius annotations.
There you go.
With little sound.
Yeah.
And we're golden.
We're golden. But I Bat Out of Hell 2 as an album I heard for the first time when I was doing my rankings. I knew it existed. I know that there are 3 of them. I've heard the first one when we did it for our tribute to Mr. Steinman, and fell in love with it. It's very. It is not lost on me that album came out the same year that Star Wars did, because I think they do a lot of the same things for their respective genres. But if Bat Out of Hell 1 is Star Wars, Bat Out of Hell 2 is The Empire Strikes Back.
Ooh.
So
I am and I assume you're one of those people who thinks Empire is the best Star Wars movie because you're a somewhat normal person.
It's no Last Jedi, but Empire is. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. I forgot. Are we actually Last Jedi friends where we agree that's like really good and people just don't get it?
Last Jedi is an incredible film.
Okay, cool.
A lot of people, largely white supremacists, all hate.
If you don't like The Last Jedi, you are a racist.
Well,
or just more likely to be a racist. Just like how you're not necessarily a racist if you like Donald Trump, but it's a lot more likely.
I mean, Gavin's basically a bread tuber, right? So, like, all of YouTube is divided into bread tube and white supremacists.
Do you think now is a good time to record our podcast episode about The Last Jedi?
Yeah.
Let's break it down and talk about it. Not enough people have talked about.
No one is talking about this.
No one has talked about this movie, except for us when we
Sidebar
already did that episode.
Yeah, I know. I wish I was on the Star Wars ones, but
I would have traded places with you. There's only one I wanted to talk about, and then the rest was like, I don't like this one either.
But no, I love Bat Out of Hell 2. I thought it was phenomenal, and I think I dare say better than the first one.
So here's the question: have you heard "Bad for Good" or "Pandora's Box"?
No, not in their entireties. I saw the the music video for Bad for Good, right? That's the one with the two kids in it. Well, I mean, they're like in their 20s, but and Jim Steinman is there with his leather jacket, and one's like an angel.
I think that's Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through. Is that music video that you're thinking of?
Oh, then okay, then I've heard that, but I didn't put it together that was the same song. So yes, I need to hear those. So I haven't heard these versions that you say are superior.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. So Jamie, have you heard Pandora's Box? And I mean, obviously you've heard Bad for Good, but have you heard Pandora's Box?
Well, of course, it's the album that was made with the money from my favorite album.
That's true. Okay, so you are familiar with the Pandora's Box for context. Steve did hear Pandora's Box when driving in the car with me, and he said it was shite. I know Michael Walsh knows it. And
It's not even that good.
we'll get to that. But let's get into Victor and Julia. Since you two are sharing a mic, feel free to decide how you want to do this. But I want to hear your
Wait,
histories.
Victor and Julia are going to share me? What?
Yeah, they're sharing a Michael Walsh.
Not that
Lipstick
mic.
Panel After Dark.
Rock and roll dreams really do come through.
Yeah, because this podcast really needs an after dark because most of it is so tame and family friendly.
I was thinking more like bonus content, maybe.
Yeah.
More like
We'll get
boner
there.
content.
Subscribe to the
Oh.
OnlyFans for exclusive
Bonus
content.
content.
The premium. You can find that in the premium feed. Lipstick Plus.
Yeah, Lipstick Plus.
Lipstickworld.com,
Yeah.
Well, would you like to go first or shall I?
Rock, paper,
I'll
scissors
go.
for it.
I'm talking. I basically had I liked Gavin's term, a loose familiarity with Meat Loaf. I realize now I probably actually hadn't heard I Would Do Anything for Love all the way through ever until doing this. But yeah, I knew that this album existed at least since coming on the Lipstick panel because it got talked about a lot on the Bad for Good episode, obviously. So, and I think so I only started listening to this about a month ago with any kind of intention, and I'm the dumbass who. So I've listened to Bad for Good quite a few times. A lot of those songs are on my work playlist and stuff. And I'm the dumbass who listened to this album and heard the intros to songs and be like, that sounds kind of familiar. but I even did that for I Would Do Anything for Love. That came on the first time I was listening to the album, and I just didn't look at the track list, even though I knew it was the first track. And I was like, this kind of sounds like I Would Do Anything for Love, like the beginning of I Would Do Anything for Love, and it was I was just literally listening to that song. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed it the first time, and it has grown on me since. But I will say, I think almost every track that I have heard in another place, I prefer the other version, with one exception.
Fair statement. So these songs are better when Meat Loaf doesn't sing them. Rest in peace, Meat Loaf.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr.
Sorry,
Lowe.
dude.
It's a real great homage that you scheduled for here, Greg.
Well, hey, I wasn't the one who suggested Bat 2. That was Michael Walsh who suggested we do Bat 2. I'm like, I'd like to do an album I have a little bit more enthusiasm for in the catalog. But I think also there's the extra harshness of just this is an artist I love so much. And when an artist you love so much does something you're not as hot on, you're a little bit extra harsh on it. So
I mean, that's a you problem, though, because first of all, who would have known that you would hate this album?
I don't hate it. I'm just not.
Second of all, pretty much universally, this is considered his second best album, certainly his second most commercially successful. So it would be the logical one to do as a tribute to him.
Oh, no.
Having
it makes
already
sense.
done the first one.
It makes sense, but I'm saying, it's not even the best Bat Out of Hell 2.
I mean, keep saying nonsense, Greg. It's your panel. You just keep
The best
panelizing.
Bat Out of Hell 2 is Bad for Good.
Oh, Bad for Good is a great album.
Bat for Good.
Oh,
Bad for Good.
We can get into Bad for Good versus this album later, because I do have a lot of.
Dead
We have
Ringer
done
versus
7
this album.
episodes on Bad for Good. Could we
Well,
not?
yeah, this album destroys Dead Ringer.
Oh yeah, no, it's yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. Julia, your turn. Intro.
Okay. I feel like my introduction to Meat Loaf has been very limited so far. I watched Rocky Horror Picture Show in high school, and I remember my mom made some remark about Meat Loaf when he showed up, where she was just kind of like, "Ugh, oh brother," and I was like, I don't know who this guy is. I actually did text my mom yesterday, and I was like, "Hey mom, what are your thoughts on Meat Loaf?" And she's like, "I don't know enough about him to have any opinion. Why are you asking me this?" And I was like, just wanted to see if that was just a weird comment that was made during Rocky Horror Picture Show randomly, or if she had any strong feelings that I didn't know about. Turns out it was the former, just a weird remark. She has no thoughts. But also, I find it strange that I haven't run into Meat Loaf aside from the occasional, I think it was like a Geico commercial or something that he was in. Because my dad was a disc jockey back in ye old day. And unfortunately, the artist that he decided to try to like impress us with was Cheap Trick, and I much rather would have heard this. So I had never heard any Meat Loaf songs really until we were going to do the first Bat Out of Hell episode, which I unfortunately didn't get to do, but it wasn't really a negative thing because I absolutely loved every second of that record. I thought it was fucking awesome. And then similarly to Gavin, I have not heard any of the other recordings of any of these songs. So coming into this album, I only have this at face value. So for my listening experience, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I do think the first one is better, but I was very taken with this one. I feel like I can definitely feel its influence on a lot of my favorite bands growing up. So I definitely am like, oh, I can tell that like My Chemical Romance and Fall Out Boy were feeling this also. So yeah, I had a good time. I really like this record.
I'm just a little hurt. Wow, shots fired against one of my favorite bands, Cheap Trick. Okay.
I knew that comment was not going to go over well.
Yeah, I mean,
I was going to say...
I felt a stab too, but also like, look, Meat Loaf, Jim Steinman is in my top 10. Cheap Trick isn't. So like, Julia is technically correct.
The best kind of correct.
No,
Jim Steinman makes much better songs than Cheap Trick does.
I mean, technically correct, but also Cheap Trick still makes really good songs. Hashtag centrist Greg.
Wow, okay.
But like Dream Police, come on, that's a great song.
I can't hear that song.
Or like Hello from the opening song from Live at Budokan. Really, just the Live at Budokan album.
And you can't dismiss their contributions to the second Transformers soundtrack.
Oh my god.
Oh, Surrender on that or something? What? I never saw Transformers 2.
No, they did the Transformers theme.
Oh God, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I have not seen.
I knew about that. I have to check that out.
I feel like I'm more of a Live at Budokan fan than I am a Cheap Trick fan, and I also happen to like the song Dream Police. So
does my dad.
Gavin, I want to give you pseudo credit. You had a comment a while back about I can't even remember the album title now, but it was a Sparks album, and you're like, it's the best Cheap Trick album that they never made, something like that. And I took it as a dig at Cheap Trick, and I'm like, I hate Gavin, he sucks. And then I did listen to the album, and while I still take quite a few Cheap Trick albums over it, I was like, this is probably my favorite Sparks album out of the few that I've listened to. So
nice. Yeah.
In a way, you showed me an album that I got enjoyment out of. So thank you.
Sweet. Which was it? Which album was it? Was it Big Beat?
I don't. Big Beat kind of sounds familiar, but I don't know if that's just from my other Sparks journeys. I feel like the cover is black and white.
Yep, that would be Big Beat.
Okay, yeah.
Opens with that song about David and Goliath called.
It's a weird conversation because the best Sparks album is clearly disc 2 of Plagiarism. When it's just
with Faith No More.
Faith No More covering a bunch of Sparks songs because that's way better than anything they did themselves. Or FFS. FFS is also great.
FFS is certainly the best Franz Ferdinand has ever sounded.
Yeah.
For the sakes of not being banned off the internet, I won't share my opinions on Sparks or my famous Sparks quote.
Oh,
I mean, you can say it. We're not going to melt.
I mean, I kind of agree with you. I like Jamie. I think you and I have the correct love of Sparks.
I think you're right.
I tried to get much more into them after I watched that documentary. I was like, I like some of their music, and I've got that one album I love. And like, the more I listened to them, the more I was like, oh, these guys are really great when they collaborate with other artists.
Oh,
and then when they do their own thing, they're pretty meh.
But like, they wrote Queen's best tune, which is "At Home, at Work, at Play," from the Propaganda album. It's the best, like,
as I said,
heart attack.
They're pretty great when they're collaborating with somebody, but when they're just doing stuff on their own, it's not.
So I don't listen to Sparks. I don't remember what they sound like. I think I've had someone try to have me listen to them before, and then it just went in one ear, out the other, and didn't stick with me. So
They're
might
like,
be
what if
fine.
Tiny Tim was a new wave band?
All right, that sounds like music I would have heard and not hated, but also not left much of an impression. So, okay, so Sparks, what if Tiny Tim was a new wave band? Hey, speaking of rankings and transitions, so coming
We
in,
were talking about that.
coming in at the bottom of our ranking with the lowest amount of votes, Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through. Coming in at the bottom, Mike Walsh. I would like you to go first.
No, what the fuck? No, what the fuck, guys?
So Mike ranked this as his number one.
Okay, okay, go on. Sorry, I'll let you finish the joke because I don't know where this is going.
That was it. You ranked this as your number one. It is at the bottom of the list. Several of us put this at the bottom, and if not at the very bottom, definitely towards the bottom. Jamie also ranked it high. But, just because you rank something under the influence doesn't mean it's necessarily good. So, Michael Walsh, why is this the best song on the album? How upset are you that it's last place? The floor is yours.
Okay, no. Joking aside, we tend to laugh and joke with each other on these podcasts.
Mike is angry.
Joking aside, I have no clue. I have no clue what's happening right now. I ranked it number one. Personally, I ranked it number one. Like I said, my first memory of this album, I just really honed in on that song. I also really like the original version on Bad for Good. Does it have to be number one? No, that's fine. But what do you mean? You mean the bottom? Did we skip?
It is last place in the rank, and it got the lowest point total. So it is at the bottom.
You mean skipping tracks that aren't even songs?
No,
like Wasted
those
Youth
got more votes.
And
those
Back
got
into
more
Hell.
votes, Mike. This got less votes than Back into Hell and Wasted Youth.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying
bottom.
is like, this doesn't even make sense. That's like a real song with a whole complete
Here,
verse
I'm going to
and
give you the
chorus
point
and
scores.
structure.
I'm looking at the spreadsheet. 1, 3, 2, 9, 11, 2,
9,
and 1.
11.
9, 11.
I mean, dear God, it's the reveal episode all over again.
Wait, just to clarify, you're saying one person put it at the very bottom.
3 people.
2 people put it at the very bottom.
Sorry, 2 people.
And then one person put it second from the bottom, and then another put it third from the bottom.
What does that even mean? I mean, like, there's just not even logic behind that. I don't even know what to say. Yeah, mind blown. Wow. I mean, if they put it at 5 in the middle, even like toward the bottom, I'm like, okay, it's just not everything is for everyone. But like, just like, what? Okay.
You seem to be at loss for words. How about we let Jamie go while you gather your thoughts?
Yeah, this is mayhem. This is insanity. We are just shitting on Meat Loaf's grave. This was supposed to be a tribute to him, and now we're just shitting on him, and I'm offended. Go on, Jamie.
I thought it was great, Mike. It was my third favorite song on the album. I think it's a great song. I mean, it's got an amazing sax solo. What more could you want? Yeah, I mean, everything on this album got a 7 out of 10, apart from the 2 songs that aren't songs for me. So yeah, Rock and Roll Dreams is a great song. I'm with you, Mike. I'll fight this one with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what more you can say, really. Why do you all hate sax solos so much? It's the song on the album with the good sax solo.
So I guess
it's funny that Jamie mentions the sax solo, because that is like one comment I did want to make, but I didn't want to make it now because you're all terrorists. But it is
9/11.
9/11 and terrorists.
It is interesting to me that this album it's like over 75 minutes long. It's in the CD era, and I was going to give it credit because a lot of people complained that once we entered the CD era that artists started just making albums too long with too many songs and stuff. And sometimes that might be the case, but I feel like for a Jim Steinman Meat Loaf collaboration, especially with a return and everything, like it was justifiable to just release this big, long, epic album. And so it was so fortunate for them that we were in the CD era at that point. And yet the point I was going to make with a few minutes still extra to go on a CD, and the fact that like a bunch of these songs are 97 minutes long, why did they have to truncate the sax solo on this version from the much longer version on the original Bad for Good album? and yet it is extremely effective. So like maybe it was done perfectly the way it needed to be. But having said that, I highly doubt all of you ranked this last because you were like, I preferred the original solo, therefore it must be last on the album. It makes no
It's the best
sense.
Greg
guys.
imitation I've ever heard.
Yeah, it was a really good Greg imitation.
I wasn't impersonating. I wasn't really impersonating anyone. It was just my general like.
In general,
what?
this is a shitty person with shitty takes. It just happened to
This
sound
is
like a
shit.
Greg impression.
Okay, well, I don't want to take us down another rabbit hole, but to be fair, I was doing an impersonation of a voice that Louis C.K. does. But
So
we don't need to,
are you calling me a sex offender?
Louis C.K. has a Greg bit.
Louis C.K. does
I'm
that
getting
voice
sex
a lot,
offenders
so
already.
I'm just emulating that. But wow, guys, wow! The rest of this ranking will be interesting. Okay, I
So-
guess.
Fully expect it to be.
As one of the people who put this at the bottom, I guess I will go next to sort of counteract and explain myself. So this is a song from from my favorite album of all time, and so I love the song. And usually when I do these rankings, I rank it based upon songwriting and not so much as performance. But
I feel like you
this-
say this every episode, Greg.
yeah, I do say this every. Hey, what if there's a
Tell-
first-time listener?
You tell this lie every episode.
Well, look, this is the case where I said I didn't rank it based upon the songwriting. I think it's a well-written song, but I think this version is a far inferior version of the song in that the original version has a much better drum performance. It has much more energy. The sort of adult contemporary vibe of the song doesn't work with the like message and vibe because nothing says rock and roll like adult contemporary. Like it's it's the wrong genre for the message. Like the original one was a rock ballad. This is an adult contemporary song, complete with a more adult contemporary take on the drums, the saxophone solo. The performance is still. The vocal performance by Meat Loaf is very good, and I do enjoy that this version has extra lyrics, but I think ultimately the instrumentation and production drag this one so much down from the original, and I think this is one of the songs that made me not like the album initially because this was before I liked Michael Bolton when I first heard the album, and I was just like, ooh, adult contemporary, this is boring and sucks. And now, even though I like Michael Bolton, I'm like, yeah, but the Bad for Good version exists. Why would I listen to this when the Bad for Good version is so much better? I think the vocals are kind of a toss-up between whether Rory's are better or Meat Loaf's are better, but I think everything else is better in the Bad for Good version, aside from this version having some cool extra lyrics, where it's like it's very non-essential for me, and so that's why I ranked it at the bottom because it's a far inferior version of one of my favorite songs of all time. Julia, you go ahead because you don't know the other version, but you also ranked this at the bottom.
That's right. I sure did. This was, sorry to say, the one song on this album that I really didn't like. I agree with Greg. I think like the sort of adult contemporary feel did not do it for me, but what really didn't do it for me was the production of the backing vocals. I found to be extremely high school choir, which I would know from doing high school choir, and it kind of gave me like war flashbacks. And I was like, I mean, and I really like this song. Just I can see a show choir doing it, and I don't like it. I don't like this song. Like I feel like
The song is great. Just this version isn't good. As good.
The song is fine. I find that it's not my desired brand of cheesy like a lot of these other songs are, where it's delightfully. But maybe it truly is that I've heard this version first, which does have that vibe of bad cover of a better original. Like bad. It just I didn't like this one. Sorry.
Well, Victor, you're
Cancel me, send me to jail. Go on and yell at me. My opinions will only get worse.
My commentary chains pretty well off of Julia's. So I'm the one who put this third from the bottom. And remember how I said that, I saw this song being performed by Up With People. I feel like that plays very well into what Julia was talking about. And I feel like counter to Greg's thoughts on it, it is the song itself. The song itself is kind of a cliched adult contemporary, hey kids, rock and roll is real neat kind of song. So I put it pretty low because while it's fine, it's also kind of cheesy and cliched and not my super favorite thing to listen to.
Hello, fellow rockers.
Right, yes. It's a great way to phrase it.
Let's see. Victor and Gavin both ranked this second from the bottom. Gavin, you have not
Yes.
heard the original. Victor,
No, I
you
have
have. So, Gavin, you go ahead and go first, and then Victor, I'll let you go ahead after that.
Well, look, before I give my reasons, I just want to say to Mike, look, I treasure your love. I never want to lose it. You've been through the fires of hell, and we've got the rankings to prove it.
The heart emoji on the screen really is what did it.
But
Audio medium.
Thank you, Gavin.
But no, I mean, I put this second from the bottom, but I will be honest, this song spent a long time on my ranking as third from the top. And just as I kind of went through the album, it kind of moved lower and lower for me. And this is much like the first Bat Out of Hell. This is one of those albums where, you know, even my lowest ranked song is still good. Like I wouldn't say that there's a bad song on this album. So I still, you know, every golden nugget truly is coming like a gift from gods, gift of the gods, or whatever it is in the song. But
Increasingly sounds like an ad for fast food.
yeah. and that adult contemporary feel that y'all are talking about, I loves me some fretless bass. So I'm happy with it. Give me those fretless bass slides all day. I'll eat it up. Like it winds up kind of sounding like there are two songs that this song kind of brought back to me. One of them is "Loving the Alien" by David Bowie. If anyone has heard the Tonight album, which why would you? There's like 3 good songs on it. And the other one is "The Lady Don't Mind" by Talking Heads, just because of that lovely fretless bass kind of wow kind of slidey thing. But I mean, yeah, this is just that great kind of. I bought into the romanticism of rock and roll kind of thing in this song. It felt, and this will be a running theme through all of my comments on this album, is that if this album was done by, like, if anyone else was singing these tunes, other than, you know, Jim on his version or Meat Loaf on
Jim didn't
this.
sing on his version.
Oh, he didn't?
Yeah, Rory Dodd did. It was excellent.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe my point is bullshit then. But I was going to say,
Yes,
if this
it
was
is.
performed by any 2 other people, it would just veer full on into the ridiculous. Veer full on into, you know. Though I will say, my number 1 song on this album there could not be performed by anyone else.
What is your number 1? I mean, that is correct. And we will
We'll
definitely-
get there. Hopefully not for a long time, but we'll get there.
It's a ways up.
Good.
I feel like
Victor,
Celine Dion could pull this off to everyone's.
no, the one he's talking
Everyone's
about,
preference, right?
Celine Dion could not pull off, and you will.
Oh no, not that one. No,
I'd like to see her try.
I would honestly. Actually, that sounds great.
I mean, that does sound pretty amazing. So Victor, you have also you've heard "Bad for Good," so you know the song is great, but you also know this is not a great version of this song.
So yeah, on Bad for Good, this was actually a song I ranked towards the bottom, and I think that version is a lot better than this one. I have gained a lot of fondness for that song since doing the episode, but yeah, this one I don't think I'm gonna have the same thing. Like literally my only note of any relevance was just adult contemporary dreams come true. Like that was and then the other thing, Gavin said for a long time this was his number 3 track in the rankings. And you know, when you're going through the album chronologically, if you're just ranking them as the songs come up, it is also the 3rd song. So it's not as good as the 2 songs before it. But you know, it would be number 3 until you get to most of the other songs. Yeah, I don't know. I like the song. Okay, the other version is just so much better, and I just don't need this one. Sorry, Meat Loaf. And I don't think it was Meat Loaf's fault. I will say I think Meat Loaf does well. I think specifically the production of this version of the song is not nearly as good as the original.
All right, Mike, you put this as number 1, so I'll give you the last word. Any other thoughts on Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through? Coming in at the bottom of the ranking, worst song on Bat Out of Hell 2, according to science.
To keep it somewhat short, I am genuinely shocked, genuinely surprised, and again, I didn't think it was going to come in as the winner, but I mean, to have this legitimate song come below an instrumental and a spoken word, I mean, that's heinous. Also, and not, you know, Steven's my best friend and Julia's a great gal, but I don't know if I really buy your whole, like, it just kind of sounds like a choir, you know, a high school choir singing. I mean, yeah, but that's the whole album. It sounds like that. So I don't know if I buy into a reason for that to shit on this song. And then Greg, my rebuttal to you is, I mean, personally, in terms of the 2 versions, you clearly it's a Fleetwood Mac for you because it's a landslide. For me, it's neck and neck. They're very close. But I don't buy your whole I just love the like hardcore Deep Purple riffy production on the original, because the original is still produced pretty tamely, and I love it. It's a phenomenal song.
But it drives more. The drums are much harder hitting. It's because so the Kiss song Forever, it's a ballad, but the drums are hit hard.
Yeah, it's a good point about Forever.
This is adult contemporary drums on the song versus the other one. Like, yes, it was a ballad, but still was much more driving, much more force.
But I mean, I feel like there's certain things that each one has. Like Gavin makes a great point, like that sweet bass song. I mean, come on, you know, like, so I don't know. That's why for me they're a lot closer, because I'm like, ooh, I like this, but I like this, and personally, again, that's why they're a lot closer for me. But yeah, I'm just genuinely shocked. I think we were way collectively, not you collectively, take me out of the equation. We're too hard on this lovely, lovely song that should come in at least in the top 5, not bottom 1.
It's a masterpiece of a song, one of the best songs ever written, just not a very compelling version of it when other better versions exist. Moving on, next up in the ranking, turns out it's another song that is from another album that was done better on that other album, but it's on this album too. So next up on the list is, by the way, that's a running theme for this album, Good Girls Go to Heaven, parentheses, Bad Girls Go Everywhere. I actually rank this one the highest. I think this is actually a pretty good version, kind of close in quality to the original. I think the original is better, but I think this is not as wide of a chasm between the two. And I think it's a really awesome song. I think the intro with that, like, cheesy, like, Dick Tracy, specifically the 90s movie Dick Tracy, like, fake film noir vibe is really awesome. I think lyrically it is freaking great. It's dry. It drives, has energy. It's a fantastic, well-written Jim Steinman song. I think maybe one of his more underrated songs in general. And while, yes, the original version is better, this is still very good. And it's not as much of, it's not like a letdown here in this version. It's like, oh yeah, I can see being in the mood to listen to this version specifically for wanting a male take on the song. So yeah, I definitely dig it. It's very cool. It's great. And let's see someone who doesn't like it as much. Gavin, you put this at the bottom.
Yes, I did. But again, I'll refer to my prior comment of, like, every song on this album is good. And the intro, specifically when those fucking bagpipes come in. Oh boy,
I thought the bagpipes were the outro.
No, they're right at the beginning.
The intro also? I thought it was just the outro.
No, yeah,
no,
they
no, no.
started
Yeah,
strong.
this. I'm glad this comes up actually. So there's an issue, an error or whatever, where so in the original version it starts with what you said, Greg, that like Dick Tracy-esque intro. On the I noticed this on Spotify too. When they uploaded the deluxe edition version, and maybe it's like this on the CD as well, they incorrectly attached the bagpipe ending of Everything Louder Than Everything Else and incorrectly put it as the beginning of Good Girls Go to So that's
I
yeah.
see.
Because it totally
I
doesn't
see.
fit. Because it has the melody from Everything Louder Than Everything Else, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
or the Wasted You thing, and you're like, why is this happening right now? And I'm like, that can't be right. And so I figured that out like maybe a night or two ago. So that's what's going on. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I mean, it wouldn't be a Steinman album if they didn't just randomly put things in the wrong order on the various media of it.
It's very hard to put stuff on streaming platforms, Steve.
It's true, it is. Hey, speaking of, Lipstick 1 back on streaming platforms just now.
Even though it was never called Lipstick 1 until now, it just like referred to that. Also, we're called Lipstick again. We're not called Lipstick Generation, so...
nice.
I mean, let's be
Streaming.
honest, you never should have been
Huzzah.
Lipstick Generation. So back to where it belongs. I like it.
But anyway, Gavin, you were saying the song.
Yeah, no, now that those bagpipes I realize are not part of the actual intro,
They're part of a different
kinda-
song. They're part of the end
part
of
of a different
Everything Louder
song.
Than Everything Else. Eliminate
well,
bagpipes from the equation.
Gavin's just like, guys, I need to send a new ranking in real quick.
I'm
yeah,
gonna
hang
rank it
on, let me
lower.
just retool this.
Was that working for it or against it?
For it? I loved it.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
it's- because
so now that means you love Everything Louder Than Everything Else more, maybe.
I mean, it is a lot higher on my list. Everything Louder, but like the actual song itself, I mean, it's great. I suppose I don't have much to say about this song in particular, which is probably why it's down at the bottom. You know, and there are times where listening to this album where like I would listen and then I would get this feeling of like, oh yeah, this album might be a little long, but then thinking about it, you can't cut anything from it. I don't think there's anything from this that could be cut without damaging the integrity of this album. It's grandiose and overblown and long, but that is the foundation upon which it is building itself. You know what I mean? That's
The point.
Exactly. It's like, you know, like people say that, oh, I don't like the movie 2001 because it's slow. It's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be bad.
Space. It's a slow place.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I'll go with that comment. Greg, I'll ignore what you said. You know, so yes, those are my thoughts on this song. Is that I like 2001. It's a great film.
The only way to make 2001: A Space Odyssey better would be to like sync it up with a couple of Meat Loaf albums.
Yeah, and then to edit it directly into the beginning of 2010, the year we make contact.
And that slow, dead silence was to mimic the sensation you get from watching 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
As the last time I saw it in theaters when it was doing that theatrical
Oh, hell
tour
yeah.
with the film print. And if you have not seen that movie on the big screen, it's one of the only films that I will say like it genuinely is an entirely different experience on a big screen. But good girls go to heaven.
Space.
Bad girls go. Good girls go to the moon because a monolith is sending out radio signals.
Bad girls go to a soundstage outside of LA where they fake the moon landing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and then make The Shining yes,
To drop hints.
yes.
Well, Jamie, what are your thoughts on Good Girls Go to Heaven, parentheses, Bad Girls Go Everywhere?
Well, it has a sax solo, which is very relevant to my interests, as we've established earlier. All of the best songs have sax solos. Take, for example, Foreigner's Urgent, possibly the best example of a sax solo. I'll let you be the judge of that.
That really might be the best sax solo of all time.
Baker Street?
Nah,
Baker
Urgent.
Street is phenomenal. Hard to argue it, but I mean, Urgent. There's
Urgent's the
too.
best. The best kind of.
No one's
rock-
even going to mention Careless Whisper.
No one's even
Okay,
going to
that's
mention
good one.
Hide This Face by Tim Curry.
Again, best kind of rock sax solo. I'm still going to stick by it. It's Urgent. Anyway, that's not what's in my notes for this. In my notes for this, it's that the sax intro isn't as good as Dire Straits' Your Latest Trick, which also has an excellent sax solo. And there are two versions of that sax solo on the intro. There's the album version and the single version. And the album extended sax solo is amazing. I thought the intro to this song sounded like a B-52s track, but not as good. And the guitars have pretty cool riffs, but they definitely sound like the year that the album was released. And by that, I mean that they sound a bit like they could have been on Revenge by Kiss, which therefore means that they sound much older than they should have been. It's basically a less good version of Holding Out for a Hero.
The Tina Turner song?
What?
You mean Bonnie Tyler, which is also a Jim
Yeah.
Steinman song.
No,
Of
I'm
course,
thinking
yeah.
of We Don't Need Another
We don't need another hero. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, for me, there are parts of this that are like really it's quintessential kind of Steinman playbook, which is great, but kind of but there's a bit in the song, I can't remember where it was, which tells you everything you need to know about how I felt about this song, where it just wasn't holding out for a hero, but it was doing all of the things that Holding Out for a Hero does.
Yeah, which I think I remember what you're talking about because it's actually a callback to Stark Raving Love, if I'm not mistaken, which then Holding Out for a Hero used. And
yeah, of course.
I think
mean,
the real
it's still a 7
takeaway
out of
here is
10.
that Gavin would rather be watching Mad Max films.
Yeah.
Not Thunderdome.
That's the one it's from.
Oh, I know that's the one it's from. It's also the worst Mad Max film.
It is. That is a movie that went on for like 40 minutes too long.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Well, Steve, since you're talking, what are your thoughts on this song? Put down those flashcards.
Honestly, I look, just because I'm trying to better myself. So I put this one right in the middle. It is so I'm I'll talk a lot of crap because that is the hashtag content that drives this this podcast. But like there's nothing actually, there's no bad songs on this album. I'm not going to complain too much about the lower half of the ranking in general, just because I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm not super excited about the song. And this is one of those. I put it right in the middle where like I'm probably not going to listen to it unless like I'm just listening to this album. Like if I'm just putting together a random playlist of music in this genre to shuffle together, yeah, this one's not gonna make the cut. And but it's not because it's like so bad it gets on my nerves, or like Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through. I'm more likely to be like, I'm tired of this. Good Girls Go to Heaven, Bad Girls Go to Everywhere. I'm just more likely to be like, there's better choices to make. So it's a good song. I don't hate it. Was it Jamie's point about or Gavin's point? I forget which one of you said it, that like the point of this album is to be bloated and overblown. Cutting it would certainly undermine that point, so I'm glad it's here for that. But it's fine. It's a good song.
Sorry, Mad
gave it like a
Max the
7 out of
Hedgehog
10 or
forced me to laugh during that that monologue.
How dare you laugh at my monologue, Greg?
So Victor, you put the song last place, but also you have heard the other version. So general thoughts.
Yeah, this one was already pretty low, and then listening to the original Sin album, I was like, oh, this other version is great. Truthfully, I don't have a ton of thoughts about this one. Aside from the intro is really, really cool. There's a weird like electronic breakdown in the middle of it that I also like. And then the intro, or when the song actually kind of starts proper with the drums and then the background vocals. The background vocals remind me of the vocals in like Van Halen songs.
Oh yeah.
So it's not High School Choir, it's Van Halen.
So Julia, as the only girl on the panel, can you confirm, do good girls go to heaven and do bad girls go everywhere? We need the facts, the hard-hitting journalism.
Good girls go to heaven, but bad girls go shopping. That's right, everybody. Women be shopping. I'm so glad to provide some diversity here. No, that's the thing. is I saw the
Representation
title.
matters.
Yeah, that's right. Hashtag girl boss. I saw the title of this song and I immediately was like, oh, fuck yeah. This is going to be a song for Julia. I love this type of shit. And then it played and I was like, it's good. But it left me wanting a lot more. I find that in an album where I remember every song pretty well, even only having listened to it a few times, that this one is one I remember the least. Which is to say, great song. But yeah, I wanted it to be nastier, and it wasn't nasty enough for me. I was ready.
You should check out the Pandora's Box version. It is.
Victor kind of gave me a heads up as to what that one's like, and I was like, well, yeah, that sounds like what it should have been. Okay, I'll listen
couldn't
to that.
Bring the nasty.
He didn't bring the nasty. I feel like he brings me the nasty plenty of times, but this time I was woefully unnasty.
Loafully.
Loafully.
Mike, did Meat Loaf bring the nasty for you?
Oh wow. Just, so many places you could take that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a straight on nasty song, but for me, it was actually probably the sleeper song of the album for me, because I was overall so much more familiar with the first half overall, and that's where most of my favorites come from. And I knew this song, and I knew I liked it. I didn't realize quite how high I ranked it until actually making these rankings. I think it's like in my top 5 or definitely my top half. I'm like, I solidly enjoy it. So for me, it was kind of like a pleasant surprise. I mean, I knew the song, but it was a pleasant surprise that just how much I like it. Spoiler alert, I thought I took Everything Louder Than Everything Else, and I actually take this song. I kind of associate the two just because they're back to back on the album for me. And now that I know this song has overall collectively ranked second worst, I know you guys are all full of shit because we still haven't even gotten to Back into Hell. And that's just kind of a dick around instrumental that incorporates the melody of this song. So you're like, oh yeah, this is a real song with a complete thing. But fuck that. We're just going to take this kind of like, instrumental that you can take it or leave it that uses the melody of this song. And somehow that's going to rank higher. Is Back into Hell the number one song on this panel? I don't know how high.
No, it's next on the list. You want to just keep going?
Okay, let's just keep going then. Okay. Back into Hell. All right.
Is anybody else getting flashbacks from when we did the Kiss album ranking and just Mike was crossed at every album?
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's
now everyone knows the real reason we can only do one of these like once a year is just like my doctors have ordered me to not do any more. My blood pressure will just skyrocket.
Mike is an American, so he can't afford to see the doctor very often.
Yeah.
Honestly, his doctor was somebody in the YouTube comments. Be like, Mike, I'm concerned about your blood pressure. As your doctor.
I mean, no, and I'm not just trying to ruthlessly trash Back into Hell. It's a perfectly fine little instrumental. It just doesn't bring anything to the album that you needed, especially when it's just kind of there near the end. And I don't know, I don't know, just it's fine, but it's clearly probably the worst song of the. I mean, there's just no way Back into Hell takes. There's no way it takes Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through, and it really doesn't take Good Girls Go to Heaven.
I mean, it did in this ranking, man.
I mean, yeah, because you guys are just making shit up. I mean, if you were really taking this seriously,
so look, I'll give you this. I'll give you this. I ranked
business, you guys.
I ranked Good Girls Go to Heaven 1 point higher than you, and I did not rank Back into Hell above it. So I'll give you that like we maybe see a little bit more eye to eye on this, but I'm going to actually go around the panel and progressively get to higher praise of the song. So next lowest is actually Jamie. Jamie, what are your thoughts on Back into Hell?
Well,
it's third from the bottom, so it's only one spot above where you ranked it, so it's not that egregious for you.
No. Yeah, it's not really a song. I don't really unless I'm listening
lyrics,
to.
It's not a song by definition.
Yeah, but it's not a song.
It's a composition, you nerds.
Yeah, well, it's a bit shit, and I'm not really interested in it. And like skits are all good and well, but what's the point in any skit after Alexander O'Neill's Hearsay album? Because skits were perfected on that record. So what's the point in these ones that are just kind of bleepy bloppy and a bit of guitar? But this is the second worst of those on the album. Mike and I probably have the same bottom two, I imagine.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, see, because we're right.
And I think I know what your bottom is, and I find that ridiculous.
Incorrect.
Horrifying.
Ridiculous.
Actually incorrect.
Fight me, Gavin. Fight me.
Oh, drive the 150 miles to Manchester, and we just may.
That's it. I'm driving. We're throwing this down.
And then we'll go to that lovely Indian pizza place that I was at last time I was at Manchester.
Indian pizza place. We'll go to Satan's Hollow and have a lovely time.
I had a chicken tikka pizza that was just chef's kiss. Amazing.
Look, that sounds
I was just
good.
watching a Red Dwarf episode about that. We were talking about how Lister eats too many curries and said, no, just June, you had a pizza. You didn't like it, but then I poured curry sauce on it and gobbled it right up.
I was actually just watching Red Dwarf the other day as well. So
Was that classic show?
yes.
We should
I had-
rank
I had
all
pizza
the
the other
seasons
day.
of Red Dwarf. Huh?
Yeah.
I had pizza the other day.
Oh, there you go.
Hell yeah.
I'm watching Red Dwarf 11 because I hadn't remembered if I had seen it or not. Turns out I had, but I'm watching it again anyway.
Nice. Well,
But
it
actually-
is cold outside with no kind of atmosphere. And I am all alone, more or less.
Depending on if you count being on the internet with us. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gavin has me tongue-tied. Anyway, it's actually... There you go. That's a reference. But yeah, actually, it's my turn next. So I ranked this the Nets lowest. So I am, I guess, closer to the Mikes and Jamies of the world when it comes to ranking Back into Hell. So, like I said, young Greg, this was his number one. This was my jam. At a time when I was listening to pretty much exclusively JRPG soundtracks, I was like, hell yes, this is more my speed. Like, not 12 minutes, instrumental, kind of sounds like shitty MIDI. Hell yeah, I am down for that. And I think in many ways, this is like his, Jim's attempt at redoing The Storm, but without a budget, and so he had to use MIDIs instead. And that is kind of awesome. Like, I have the ambition of doing something stupidly indulgent and over the top, but I don't have a budget for an orchestra, so fuck it, it's going to be MIDIs. I love that. I love that it's sort of a medley of different pieces, and done as this sort of like, given those melodies you're familiar with, a new context to be heard in. So I think it's very fun. But yeah, I do like it a lot, and it is one of the highlights of the album, but I ranked it a little bit lower because it was sort of a hybrid of like, okay, rank based upon songwriting, based upon performance. If I'm ranking, and also based upon like how essential it is. If I'm ranking based upon how essential it is, this is one of the most essential tracks on the album because it's actually new. There's only like 5 new songs on this album. The rest are covers. This is a really solid covers album with some good new songs and then one absolute like indisputable masterpiece of songwriting that is worth the price of admission.
Back into Hell.
This is not the one I would consider that to be, but it's a fun instrumental that I enjoy as a JRPG fan, and I think that some of the panelists are wrong with how harshly they judge instrumentals. I think instrumentals can be just as good as songs with vocals, can be better than songs with vocals, and that, look, there's like some shitty instrumentals, and yeah, a lot of shitty instrumentals are in the rock realm where the players are not very creative with their instrumental melodies. I love how Greg always uses I like JRPGs as an excuse for liking shitty albums on the songs on the albums we look at. You know what? There are some other people who have that same opinion, but unfortunately, they're not even next on the list. Next
I mean, on the point of instrumentals, I do want to. I mean, and me ranking this pretty low. I want to clarify, like, instrumentals can be smoking. They can be really cool, but they really need to bring something to the table. Whether it's a unique instrumental melody or just something really fiery and exciting, or slow and passionate, whatever the case may be. And I think this is fine. I wouldn't take it off the album, but to rank it over legitimate songs, I also think is a bit far. And then one other thing, and you can tell me, Greg, as boss of this panel, when we can talk about this, because you've mentioned it a few times now, and I've thought this coming into it. How are we to assess this album in terms of, are you assessing it as a standalone album and without the knowledge of all the previous versions, or are you assessing it with that knowledge? Because I do feel like that makes a difference. And I'm only putting that out there now because I'd like us to talk about that at some point. You can go to the next rank if you want.
Yeah, I think we could discuss that now, but my thoughts is I ranked it just based upon like how it feels to me. Because I can't rank this as just like in the vacuum of how good I think the songs are. It's much harder for me to do for this album than actually basically any album we've done on the show. So for me, it's an amalgamation of, song quality, how essential these particular versions are, et cetera, et cetera. But honestly, I don't have super strong feelings about this ranking other than number one. Like, number one needs to be number one, and the rest of it can be in any order, and I don't really care. It's like, yes, number one is correct, and then the rest, like, you can put in any order. I'm like, yeah, sure, that's fine, whatever you want to do. That's
if we have number one the way I think we have number one, then I agree with you.
Basically, as with every
I
episode.
also agree.
I only bring that up.
We have an idea of how rankings are supposed to be done, but we're not actually doing that because we're all just so full of shit.
Yeah.
Well, I bring it up because I feel like as a standalone album, without kind of all the knowledge of prior works and whatnot, this is probably like
You're breaking up, Mike.
Oh, can you hear me? I'm here.
You're still breaking up. But I think what you were trying to say.
He's praising the instrumentals, and he actually really likes them. I think that's what he's changing.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
I also heard Greg is right about The Elder, and I was wrong for so many years. Also, Cheap Trick is overrated. Mike, you're saying some wild stuff, but hey, man, I mean, whatever your heart is telling you.
Something about Status Quo, only because I know that's a band that Mike brings up, but I forget if Mike's into them or not.
He likes their riff.
Am I totally gone now?
No, you're
just choppy.
You're choppy. But I think the point you were trying to make is.
I'll be back in a minute. I guess you're done. That situation.
Yeah, you're not coming through.
It's
I don't know, maybe try moving to a different spot.
Type it.
Yeah, type your point.
We're transcribing this whole episode anyway, right?
Yes.
Greg, you memorized it?
Yes, this is actually going to be a text-only episode on my Substack. But only for the paid subscribers on the Substack. Don't put out this quality content for free.
Radiant Epoch.
Oh, by the way, Victor, thanks for actually reading that story.
I'm slow but steady.
Hey, that is more. You've read more chapters than a lot of people.
I was busy. I'm sorry.
Julia's been reading Brandon Sanderson. She has no time.
That's fair.
Brandon Sanderson's eating up my whole life, which is why I didn't have time to listen to this record either. I cannot juggle both things.
But yeah, I guess so Julia has only heard this album and can't compare the other versions.
It's
Gavin,
true.
pretty much the same.
Yep.
Steve, I feel like doesn't care, and so I like
What gave you that impression?
just knowing Steve. So I feel like Steve, if he does remember he doesn't remember the Pandora's Box versions, and probably doesn't remember the differences between the Bad for Good versions enough to like make a. Like, whoa, I'm ranking it based upon, this versus this. Like, he just, like, listened to it once, like, yeah, sure, I'll move these around. That seems fine.
I didn't even remember that I ranked Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through second in the Bad for Good ranking.
Yeah, so, like, Steve doesn't remember or care. So, really, this question is for Jamie and Victor, and then Mike once he gets his stuff working again. So, Victor, how did you rank this? Did you rank this in a vacuum, or was the comparisons to the other versions coloring your judgment, even though we kind of already said that they did?
I totally was just like, I can't divorce myself from knowing these songs, especially since almost instantly upon hearing them, I was like, oh, the other version's better, with one exception, as I said in the intro. And I understand desiring the purity of wanting to go just based on this stuff, but unfortunately, I live in the real fucking world. So I decided to just go with with what my brain was developing in terms of opinions. And you know what? God damn it, it came up with all the right ones.
There you have it.
Jamie, did you rank this in a vacuum, or did you have to compare it to the other versions of the songs?
Honestly, it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. Because of the kind of stuff I do when I'm not doing podcasts late at night with my American friends, plus my Canadian friend.
Hey.
There we go. I really care about the sound of things, and Battle Out of Hell 2 just sounds better than all of the previous projects that the songs featured on. Like, Bad for Good sounds good for an album that came out when it came out, but, you know, technology moved on, and all of the kind of the compromises that they had to make when bouncing down stacks of backing vocals, for example, or, you know, condensing arrangements to make sure that it could actually fit onto a record. Just they didn't have to do that on Battle Out of Hell 2 because they could hook up multiple tape machines together. And
that's why Monster sounds better than Rock and Roll Over. Technology got better.
Well, they went back to tape though, didn't they, for Monster? So,
ooh, yeah, you got me.
Greg made a poor kiss point there.
Got him.
But Crazy Nights, I don't think Crazy Nights sounds that horrible. But you know, something like Revenge sounds better in terms of audio quality than The Elder, for example, which was produced by Bob Ezrin.
But does it?
I've always kind of felt that
Yes.
like music production sound quality peaked somewhere in the early 90s ish.
It peaked in 1987 when
Really?
Hysteria came out.
Okay, get out of it. No, I mean it's a great album. Am I sounding better, by the way?
Much better.
You sound much
Oh, yeah,
better.
a lot
Excellent,
better.
excellent. Well, thank you for bearing with me there.
Anyway, Mike,
the
most
weird thing
of
is I'm
us
not
said
using
we
a
weren't
wireless
doing this in a
mic.
vacuum. There was
Yeah, so the TLDR of this, Greg, is that I'm aware of all of the other versions. I like all the other versions, but I just like all the versions on Battle Out of Hell 2 better.
Well, the reason I bring it up is I like Jamie just said. For me, it is probably a little of column A and column B. But I feel like if you were mentally to try to say all one way, all in a vacuum, then I feel like this kind of stands probably as like the most realized version of like a Jim Steinman vision project. Like this is him on an album. It's like 75 minutes long. It truly represents him as a songwriter with excellent production, a great singer. It really does him justice.
but does it do him justice as much as him hiring 4 hot girls to sing his songs? Which is more
Well,
self-indulgent,
I
getting your
mean-
fat friend to sing your songs, or 4 hot girls?
Yeah, I mean that's
What is the
that's
more
separate. I get it, yeah.
self-indulgent Jim Steinman project?
Very true, very true.
Which he
Honestly, probably
which
the
he paid for
probably
with
the
his.
friend one.
But I was just saying musically this one, but in terms of just like horny guy writing songs, then sure the other one. But in terms of if you want to assess this album with all the knowledge of the other songs and everything, then there is a little bit of that aspect of like, oh man, this is just kind of a cheating compilation album. And I could see how one would be like a little let down, like there's not actually that much original content on here. But I prefer to kind of look at it more the former, which is how I originally heard it. And I think it's a great representation in that regard. And that's just why I bring that up. That's not specific to the song we were talking about.
I think it's a fair point. It is a good album if you don't know those other recordings exist, which granted was most people who bought this record because it sold better than Bad for Good and Pandora's Box. But you know, as a massive Steinman fan looking at his songwriting catalog, it does feel like a little bit womp womp when looking at like the grand tapestry of his work. And ironically, you know, we're not talking Bat 3, but I think the versions of the songs on Bat 3 I think were ultimately like some of the superior versions of those songs, aside from like Bad for Good and It's All Coming Back to Me Now. But generally the other covers on that album I think are better than the ones that had been previously released, versus this album is weaker versions of songs that have been previously released. And so that's why it makes it a very weird listen for me. So it's a very bittersweet like experience this entire album. I want to love it more than I do, because like how can an album with Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through and, you know, Good Girls Go to Heaven and, you know, et cetera, like not excite me as much? Like it should be like the best album ever, and so I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. And so that's it falls a little flat for me, but I still think it's a great album. I believe it's Gavin's turn to talk about Back into Hell. Unless, Mike, you wanted to add more to that tangent before we moved on.
No, and I apologize because I wasn't trying to make it entirely a tangent. I was just trying to say we should talk about it at some point, and then you said we could, and then my audio sucked, so then it got a lot sloppier than it should have. Sorry, but no, carry on, Gavin.
I like this song. It's my only
it's not
note.
A song, it's a composition.
Oh, fair.
Oh, so
yes.
Jamie's raising his hand. Yes.
Jamie's raising his hand. Yes, Jamie.
Sorry, I tried, because I'm a consummate professional, I took notes about each of the songs so that I could pass my opinion. Now, probably only Gavin will get this, but for me, it's I remembered a note about this particular track. It sounds like a really shit version of Abacab by Genesis. So it's got the same square wave kind of synth sound, but it's not done as well as when Tony Banks does it. So have that rubbish instrumental. Stop not being Abacab.
But I will say that this is the atmosphere of this piece is like, I get why it's the title track, man. It's
the title track.
It is the title track, and it to me it kind of it's the world of this album, and like, I mean, I put this as 7 out of 11. So, like, you know, I put it over Good Girls and Rock and Roll Dreams. But yeah, it's I almost wish Steinman did an album entirely like Back into Hell. The only note I wrote down, because I too am a consummate professional, is I want a Steinman ambient instrumental album, and I want it now. That's what I wrote.
Bad news about that.
You wanted last year.
I know. Yeah, well, maybe a few years before that, but it also felt in a lot of ways like mid-90s Residents stuff, which I don't know if anyone is familiar with the Residents, let alone their 90s period.
I am familiar with the Residents. I watched that documentary on them.
Oh, yeah.
You told me to watch, and did a podcast episode with you that never got released.
And subsequently the audio was lost. But fear not, the commercial podcast may reemerge as I add it to the pile of a million other things that I say I'm going to start and then happen. But no, I mean, I like it. I ultimately don't have a lot to say about it. It's one of those things where, like, you look at the amount that this album sold and how, like, successful it was, and then you look and see that it has things like this on it, and you realize that, you know, maybe the world ain't such a bad place.
Beautiful. And our couple on the album actually ranked this in the exact same spot, so whichever one of you wants to go first.
So you both have to talk at the same time.
No, can I just say we never listened to this album together. I took in this album completely alone, as did Victor, just completely separate. We never even really talked about it much until like
yesterday.
Yesterday, when I threatened to play it on the work speaker. And
was that a conscious decision, or just how
it just so happened?
Yeah, our schedules have not lined up at all. So I think it's very funny that we both put it in the same spot. Because I will say, yeah, I ranked it above a lot of quote unquote real songs, but I'm confident when I say that I could see myself listening to this more often than I would ever want to seek out any of the songs that play below it. Not because they're not good songs, but I agree with Gavin. I really like the atmosphere of this song, and I find myself drawn to fun, weird little soundscapes, and I tend to like, especially because I am a very visual person. I like songs like this a lot of the time because I feel like they're good for conjuring up mental pictures for me. So I like listening to it. I think it's a fun song, and I would listen to it again gladly. I will definitely be adding it to playlists and stuff like that.
The chair recognizes Gavin.
Yeah.
So
Gavin-
sorry to raise my hand and interrupt, but I realized I forgot to say, and Julie, you reminded me of this. If there are any Nine Inch Nails fans here, I feel like Trent kind of took this song and like ran with it for stuff like what's the song on Downward Spiral with the big drums?
There's a down.
Platoon, doom, platoon, boo, doom, doom. Eraser, I think it's called. And then like A Warm Place, just that kind of little interlude. Sorry.
Really should listen to more Nine Inch Nails. Actually, that's a good reminder for us all. Listen
That'll
to
be
Trent
the next
Reznor.
episode. We'll do Downward Spiral next. Yeah.
I mean, I bet I would really like that, to be honest.
It's a great album.
'Cause, yeah, I mean, like I said, I trust my gut when I do these rankings. I just I don't let anything get in the way besides just my true gut reaction to how I'm personally responding to the songs. And I had a really positive response to this song. And again, I like all the songs I put below it, but this one just clicked with me better and just how I like to listen and engage with music, I think.
And I, a consummate professional, just like Gavin, just like Jamie, took a very important note that said, "Rad, I love Final Fantasy."
So you can
on
see
the
why
first couple
young
of
Greg
listens,
liked this.
Yeah. On the first couple of listens, this was my number 2. And it moved down a little bit for reasons I'm sure we'll get into with all of the songs that are above it. But I think ultimately, if I had a problem with this track, it's that it is so about the two different kind of melodic and instrumental sides, like kind of going back and forth, like almost arguing with each other, that it never actually gets into kind of a flow. It's always kind of at war with itself, which I think is appropriate for the atmosphere we've all been talking about. But as a thing to listen to, it does make it a little bit less satisfying in kind of a conventional sense than the average song on here. But it's also very cool. And it sort of functions. One complaint I maybe have about this album as a whole that I didn't have about certainly the first Bad Out of Hell and maybe even Bad for Good is that this one doesn't feel as much like there is an overarching narrative to all of the songs. Not that there's a very clear one on those other ones.
I think it's that rock and roll is cool. That was what I was getting here.
It's that rock and roll dreams come through.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The narrative of
that's
this album.
exactly it. That was my takeaway.
But if Bad Out of Hell 2 did have a narrative, this is the final dungeon of it.
The narrative
This
of
is
this album
the
is really
escape
just like,
from-
we made so much money, let's do that again.
Yeah. It's the escape from the island. Yeah. I
The
guess.
Escape from the Island of the album.
Escape from the album.
So Steve ranked as the highest. He gave it 8 points.
I'm honestly a little bit surprised at this on like a couple of levels. I'm surprised that the weird instrumental I ranked this high and I ranked it the highest. I would before I listened to the album this week, I looked at the songs on it and was like, I don't even remember that one. I bet it's pretty forgettable and not very good. And I was prepared to drop it straight to the bottom and then got to it and was like, wait, hold on. No, this kind of rules though. This is like the menu game from the menu music from Mind Roll. I didn't play JRPGs as a kid, but I played a weird puzzle game on the Amiga about being an eyeball trying to escape from mazes. So I liked it. I liked it for that, and it kept on creeping up my rankings as I tried to sort things. I was like, man, maybe Back into Hell kind of rules, you guys.
So I think what I've learned when looking at this panel is the two traditional rockers on the panel are ranked at the lowest, and the weird nerds were like, yeah, this is awesome.
That's probably fair.
Do we have any other comments on Back into Hell before we move on?
I will say that I had an expectation for this piece for Back into Hell. I think part of the reason why it didn't get higher for me is that I had an expectation of what this song would be given the length of it, especially after hearing another piece on this album that I liked a hell of a lot more. And I thought, oh, that thing I liked is going to happen twice. And then while Back into Hell was not what I thought it would be, and I can go into more detail when we get to what I'm actually talking about.
It'll be a while.
It'll be good.
That's good to hear.
That's good to hear. I'm sure Mike loves that. But it isn't what I wanted, but perhaps it's what I needed.
Oh, wow.
So next up on the list, we have a song that I gave 9 points to, so it ranked much lower than I placed it. We've got It Just Won't Quit, and that's on the list. Mike, how are you doing with the songs you ranked pretty high, all like coasting in at the bottom?
I mean,
But also, we
we started,
spot, so you can't shit on me for this.
We started this so insanely that it's like, oh, It Just Won't Quit is in the middle. Like, okay, yeah, it should be. Obviously, it should be above at least Wasted Youth. So that's wrong. But I mean, based on how this is going, its position isn't surprising. To be fair, that's another one that I ranked very highly just because of very old memories. I mean, we're talking 90s, late 90s, probably. My friend Derek I actually shared this on a previous podcast, but my friend Derek like wrote the lyrics on a postcard, like a note card, like, you know, for taking notes in class. Like, I don't know, what did we use note cards for? I guess when you could
flashcards,
like a flashcard,
flashcards,
yeah,
Mandarin kanji that you're trying to memorize.
Like handed me these lyrics, and I'm like, oh, this is my buddy doing okay? Is he what's he so sad and depressed about? And I guess he had like this crush on this girl, and he was just like, oh yeah, it's this really cool Meat Loaf song, and so that's when I had then really spent time listening to it and not just, you know, Rock and Roll Dreams Come True over and over and over. So, you know, it's really good. It's got that, I don't know, it just has a really great vibe overall. I love, you know, my personal memory of it. I just think it's a really good song overall. I don't even need it to be ranked as high as I ranked it. What did I put it at number 3? I think something like that. But yeah, I think very highly of it. What else can I say? I mean, you you relate to it if you know, you've ever not been, you know, if you've ever been feeling under the weather, or maybe there's a witch doctor in town or something. But I think it's very clever lyrically with some of those lines as well. So it's just a great Jim Steinman song with a great Meat Loaf vocal. Can't go wrong.
Yeah, the only way you could go wrong is choosing this over the Pandora's Box version is the only way you could go wrong with this. No, joking aside, this actually is Meat Loaf does a very good job on both Pandora's Box songs that are on the album. He does a really excellent job with this one. I don't think it's quite as good as the original, but I think he delivers a very respectable vocal that makes you feel the emotion. It's definitely one of the more dated songs in terms, like, you can tell that Jim Steinman wrote the song when he could play with drum machines and had a synthesizer, because like that drum beat is very much like, ooh, baby's first drum machine beat, and that intro is like, ooh, I got a new synth and had fun with it, because it's the same synth tone he had on the Pandora's Box album. And it's not really an issue on this song, but I think, you know, when talking about the production of this album, I think that this is like, to me, like lower tier hair metal production, where there's just like a lot of reverb and the mix can kind of sound muddy at times when there's so much going on. And I think that the more in-your-face clarity you got from Bad for Good and most of the Pandora's Box album, I think I prefer the production on that. But then there are some tracks in Pandora's Box that sound way muddier than anything on this album. But this is a great song. The emotion works. It drives. It has energy. It's appropriately epic. I definitely dig it. Steve, you thought it was shite. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I were to call anything on this album filler, it's definitely this one. And I think this song would have benefited from just like accepting that it's not It's not going to get radio play. It's not a single. It's an album deep cut. Just say shit. Nobody wants to hear the lyric, as worthless as spit. That's just embarrassing.
I don't think it's embarrassing. I think it's actually cool, and I think shit is a little obvious. Says and Steve is complaining about, why not just say the obvious lyric coming from the pop punk tradition where you are always trying to subvert the obvious with the lyrics?
I mean, but the thing is, it's clearly a substitution, though, right? It's not like he's being clever and it's like something worth as richer than diamonds or worthless as spit.
Well, cheaper
no,
than spit. I don't know. I think it's
cheaper than spit. My bad.
I think that's an interesting concept because spit is kind of a to spit on someone is very insulting. It's like the lowest low that you can do. I mean, other than
I don't know, dropping a deuce on something is pretty insulting.
Right, but I guess most people don't.
Shitting on someone is high praise, actually.
Yeah,
very flattering.
You do got to pay a lot extra for that.
Yeah,
True.
Greg, I did kind of have your take on that as well, though. Just I feel like it is supposed to draw the connotations of just I spit on you, that kind of thing.
I spit on your grave.
It's more Shakespearean to use spit.
And I mean, they did say shove it up your ass in Life is a Lemon, so I don't think they were entirely hiding from any sort of lyrical content. But yeah, I think spit totally works in this case. I'm team spit.
I'm team spit. Julia, are you team spit?
Or team shit.
Oh yeah, the spit train has taken us all the way to the station, baby.
Spit to the moon.
Yeah. Oh god. Have you guys invested in Spitcoin?
The only one I'm willing to invest in.
Oh god.
I really appreciate their proof of Bitcoin chain, which uses extra carbon emissions.
I'm so glad that we're just gonna set the planet on fire for even more pretend money than the pretend money that was already ruining everything. What a world. Anyway,
when they say to the moon, that means that's where the rich people are gonna go.
Yeah, when they finally render this planet uninhabitable.
They can have it for all I care. I'll stick with the place with water.
Thing is, they're going to bring all the clean water and clean air there.
They're going to take, yeah.
Anyway, Julia, you were saying, sorry.
So Meat Loaf. Yeah, I think this song is, I guess, yeah, it did not break my back into hell barrier, I guess is now what we're working with. And the reason being that it is a lovely song. I think the sentiment is there. It works. The lyrics are good. This is an album where I finally did hear the lyrics, which is very rare for me, where I was like, oh yeah, no, these are worth listening to, I think. But ultimately, I think this song did quit staying in my brain as one that was like one of my standouts, I think. It just
did quit.
It did. It just did quit.
And I know what it is.
See, maybe Julia needs to hear the original version, though, because maybe you need to hear it from a female heartbreak perspective. Because when you listen to this as a man who's just been in love with that girl, man, it just connects with you. So maybe when there never used to be this boy in the original version.
Representation matters, Mike. That's why you have to have like someone who looks like you doing the material.
I think this song needs a girl boss.
It does have a girl boss in the original.
That's what I'm saying. You can hear it as a girl boss. Yeah. It might be your favorite song. You might take it even over Back into Hell. Whoa.
Let's see what happens. Yeah. No, I think I mean, listen, I love an emo song. That's my whole brand, in fact. Actually, this was a song where I was like, I can't quite put a finger on it. I think I'd have to listen to it a few more times. But I was like, something about this is like, I can tell that when Fall Out Boy were still making good records, this was a song that they liked. But unfortunately, they gave up doing that not too long after making songs that sounded kind of inspired by this.
I bet the cover of that by them would have been really good.
I bet so. I think Patrick Stump could do a great version of this. maybe one day they'll go back to making good songs, but
I'll send a text over to P Stumps. I got his number in my phone.
Nice.
oh my god.
So I'll just go, hey, P Stumps, let's jump in the studio, bruh.
Yeah, man.
Music
I mean-
history. Sorry, go on.
I don't know
Yeah.
him.
I think they
Boy.
should cover a Meat Loaf song. I actually think that, I mean, okay, again, as long as they don't do that like modern pop production bullshit where everything is so clean and yucky to hear, just like
Oh, they
awful.
will.
And they
definitely
will.
will.
I know I shouldn't say like, haha, don't do that thing that everyone's doing that you're just gonna do anyway. But if they did do, again, I like my songs nasty. And again, that doesn't mean like gross or slutty, although that often does mean. It can
But
mean both.
But it doesn't
But
hurt.
like what I mean, like,
You're sitting next to someone wearing a Kiss t-shirt, I think.
yeah. Don't remind me. No. No, I'm like, I love, like, actually, okay, I know I'm going back a page, but Good Girls Go to Heaven, I love it because it sounds like a song that would play in an 80s movie when they're at the strip club, which is why I wanted it to be even more aggressive and, like, gnarly in its production. So I think if Fall Out Boy would commit to doing that type of production where I could hear it at an 80s strip club, they would have something beautiful. I think it would be their best album ever, but unfortunately that's my white whale now. I unfortunately just invented a new whale to be upset about.
New Whale just dropped.
Wait, you're claiming to be like an emo kid whose White Whale is an imaginary Fall Out Boy album rather than White Whale, the Secret and Whisper album that exists.
Well, I guess, my rock and roll dreams come through in a different way. You know who would do?
You know, I'm
even
hearing a
better?
lot of references to
Romance.
Good Girls Go to Heaven, Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through. I'm thinking these songs needed to be ranked higher than they were. We sure seem to be going back to them a whole
It's only
lot.
because we've already talked about them when we're avoiding spoilers.
Yeah.
On the
I'm
reveal
wondering-
episode, all we did was talk about when Summer gets to
Turns to
high or whatever
sigh.
the hell.
Summer
and
turns
that's the
to high,
worst
yeah.
fucking song on that record, so.
So Jamie, what are your thoughts on this fantastic emo song?
Yeah. It's not really an emo song, is it? It would be pretty cool for Fall Out Boy to do it. If Fall Out Boy got back to being a good band, that'd be pretty cool. Do you remember Fall Out Boy were a good band? That was good, wasn't it? For a couple of albums. I feel like Elton John has a lot to answer for, and I quite like that album. But that seems to be the tipping point, It closes out the album and then they're shit. Anyway, I've said all of this because I forgot which song we were doing. Was it Good Girls Go to Heaven?
It just won't quit is what we're doing.
All right. There we go. Look at that.
Jamie, that was like
See?
5 songs ago, mate. What are you doing with your daughter over there? Just put her
Oh,
to
look
bed.
at that. Michael there saying that's cultural appropriation, using the term mate in that kind of accent.
I mean, I'm also white. I don't know.
Just wait till I start saying cunt in my
my
reviews.
my last name means I'm a Welshman, so I can say Welsh things.
Well, I look forward to hearing those Welsh things.
Yeah.
It just won't quit is fine. It's just a massive drop from the other songs because I listened to the album from beginning to end and made my ranking. When it came on, I was like, oh, this is fine, but it's not as good as the songs that were before it. So yeah, it's just fine. It's a massive kind of intensity drop, but yeah, it's cool.
Not as good as the songs before it or after it. So
Yeah.
So Victor, you have also heard the original. Original better, or is this the one where the original is not better?
This is not the one where the original is not better, but I will say the original is quite a
That
bit.
was too many negatives. Say it,
Yeah.
Which is better, this or original?
scrap it, rewrite.
The original is better,
Okay, thank you.
but this one doesn't disappoint me as much.
That is a very good take. That is a
the quality.
exceptionally
The
good
quality
take.
is not as disparate, I guess, or like this version is still really, really good. And I still ranked it pretty low, but it's got a nice like main hook is really good, like very catchy. I think very well performed, and the outro is really cool with that kind of ambient hum wave thing.
Yep.
But I would agree, especially on this album, it is certainly not a standout track, but I think it is good, as most of the things on this album are.
I just want to give a second recognition to that awesome outro hum wave thing. Almost has like a haunting quality,
Yeah,
Like, To me, it has like kind of like, and you will never get the girl.
Yeah,
It
it adds to the drama of the song, I think, in a very well placed way.
Mike, do you want to go ahead and give it? I don't remember if you gave us your thoughts on this one in particular yet.
I did. Yes,
You did?
I
Okay.
yeah.
Because I know we kind of went at the same time. So that would leave just Gavin.
Yes, it does. So again, another ode to my consummate professionalism. I did take a note for this song. I took a note for all the songs. My note for this was, maybe there's a witch doctor with an office in town. I like this song. It wound up being number 6 for me, so kind of right middle of the pack. And again, on an album where I don't think there's a bad song, it being in the middle of the pack, it's still a great song. I haven't heard the original. I'd like to hear the original. I need to hear all the originals of this. Maybe my love for this album is unfounded. But it's another one that I don't have a lot to say about it. It's good. The chorus is catchy, but it didn't resonate with me as much as other things on this album.
Well, speaking of things that didn't resonate with Gavin as much. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Gavin, not having heard the originals and then hearing them, I don't think it will be fully illegitimate to still prefer these versions, because as Jamie has been saying the whole time, this album sounds really, really good. I think the only one where the production doesn't work for me is Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through.
I mentioned that the album is really well produced yet, because this is a really well produced album. And let me just mention it again. The album sounds
Jamie,
fucking incredible.
Would you say that Jim Steinman is a good music producer?
Well, those of us that have been involved in music for long enough know that the true audio quality comes from the mixing stage, not necessarily the production stage. But Jim Steinman, as a songwriter, is a very good songwriter, and that is undeniable. Just like what Joe Elliott said when he was hired. Jim Steinman is a great songwriter, but Todd Rundgren was the guy that produced Bat Out of Hell. I know he didn't produce Bat Out of Hell 2.
Yeah, why didn't Rundgren come back?
He plays on it, doesn't he? He does some. I think.
Does he?
Didn't Rundgren do the backing vocal arrangements?
Yeah, he does some backing vocals on this and some backing vocals on Bat 3. He didn't produce it because Jim is like, I'm the boss now.
Okay. And maybe he was still too busy feuding with the XTC boys.
Perhaps.
Oh, what? You're not an XTC fan, Greg?
No, just not like not a not fan, but just don't listen to him.
Oh,
you should.
Yeah. And a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, skylarking, English or Black Sea English settlement, oranges and lemons, drums and wires."
They're the bells of St. Clemens.
Oranges go to heaven.
The friendly ranger at Clontarf Castle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What a great song title. Speaking of great song titles, there we go. Still doing transitions.
Good transition this time, Greg. It's stuck.
It's stuck. Next up on the list is Lost Boys and Golden Girls, another cover from another Steinman album. Yeah. So original is better, but this is very, very good. I think this is one of the ones where I can't fault someone for preferring this version to the original, because Meat does give a very, very good vocal here. And so I think it's just it's a great song, performed very well. Its placement feels very weird for me as the closer on the album, because I'm so used to it being an early track on Bad for Good. And so it being the closer here is like, I get it, you're going to the soft ballad to close out the album. And it makes sense, like, okay, Peter Pan motif, and recognizing that, like, Meat and Jim are no longer young and youthful, and this album's attempt to, like, recapture that youthful energy. So it artistically makes sense, but as someone who has listened to Bad for Good so damn much, it's like if you went to a Kiss concert and the closer was, I'm trying to think of something like Appropriately Weird, Every Time I Look at You, where you're just like, yeah, you can do it, I guess, but why would you? So I do like it. I think it's a good version. I prefer the original, but I think this is a very fine vocal performance, and like perhaps one of Meat Loaf's best vocals. So, of course, one of Meat Loaf's best vocals still isn't as good as a Rory Dodd vocal, but hey, what you gonna do? But yeah, that's my thoughts on this. Victor, you gave it the same amount of points I did, so you gave it 7 points, and so did Julia. So you two are syncing up in the
Wow.
minds. So
funny.
yeah, you two go ahead.
I didn't realize our lists were so similar.
Yeah, weird.
Well, great minds think alike.
Great minds and mine.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah. I think that yeah, I agree with the sequencing point you made, Greg, that it does come at a weird place. However, I think this is the best like slow song on the album. I like this one. I think it's pleasant listening. Yeah, I don't even have a lot to say about it besides I really like it. Think it's a good song.
This is the one that I think this version is better than the original. I didn't listen to them side by side, so maybe I'll change my mind later today, but I think this one, well, Lost Boys and Golden Girls is it was pretty low on my bad for good ranking, and this one I found myself liking a lot, and I think frankly one thing that had a lot to do with it was the production of it. I think it sounds as Jamie would say, great, and yeah, I maybe controversial. I think it's a great closer. Like maybe not thematically, but I think from a sonic perspective.
Wait, say that again, but slower, please.
It is the ball of the album.
Hey, did you guys remember that Sonic 2 is coming out this year?
Yeah, I did.
So
With
maybe
Idris
this song will
Elba.
be.
Yeah, when are we doing our watch along commentary for
When
Sonic?
it's available for streaming, obviously.
Yeah, it's got to come out first.
Lost Boys and Golden Rings.
Yeah, I think this version is really, really good. And I also like that it is just a nice ballad at the end of the album and doesn't do the kind of fake out half dramatic, then half slow down ending that For Crying Out Loud does at the end of Bat One. Though, maybe it could have used a little more of those peaking drums.
Well, I feel like if this was gonna let me gather my thoughts. I think that this is a good closer if they had made it feel more final at the end, perhaps, which actually is something that Fall Out Boy does. God, it makes me. I feel like I sound like a much bigger Fall Out Boy fan. Remember that My Chemical Romance is the greatest band of all time in my eyes. But actually, Jamie, I just wanted to say I agree with you about Save Rock and Roll, and I think Elton John would have been able to make this song a really banging closer. But as it sits right now, I think it is a good song, but I wish it had happened at a different point in the album.
The problem with most songs is that they don't have enough Elton John on them. And this is one of those songs that definitely suffers from having no Elton John.
Chronic flaw, yeah.
I will say there's a version of Pinball Wizard out there that suffers from having entirely too much Elton John on it.
Fighting words.
That is a controversial opinion. I mean, we can have a discussion about The Who at another time.
He was
Where's your
just
book,
doing
Pete?
research.
Yeah, there we go. Greg and I with the same joke straight away. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Jamie, you ranked this next highest, so go ahead.
Yeah, I just wrote down Peter Pan shit because that's kind of how I feel about it. It's fine. This is one of the songs where in my head, while I was listening to it, I was going, oh, do you know what? The Bad for Good version is infinitely better than this version. So yeah, That was all I could think of, really. It's fine. I mean, the album has 3 tracks that I would consider to be piano ballads. This is the worst of them. But that's because one of them is the best song on the album that we all agree on, no doubt. And the other one isn't as good as that song. So yeah, it's fine.
Well, we'll get to that take when we get to that take. So, Steve, you ranked this the next highest. You gave it 4 points. Thoughts on this? Do you remember what the original sounds like?
She said the last one was on Bad for Good?
Yes.
Oh, I was just looking at my rankings. I couldn't even see it in my rankings there. So I don't know. I put this one mid-lows because it's fine. It's not my favorite, but it's fine. It's
a slow piano ballad. You ranked it as high as a Steve could.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate assessment of it.
And then Mike and Gavin, you both put this in the same spot, only giving it 3 points. Mike, how do you feel about this one ranking so high? Does this infuriate you also, or is this more reasonable?
I mean, at this point, I'm not even trying to be funny or sarcastic. At this point, I've just kind of mellowed and kind of checked out. We're just saying whatever we feel like saying now, anyway. So that's cool.
I feel like every podcast with Mike ends this way, where he's just like, I give up.
It's just a group of friends talking about songs
like all
in random
Americans,
order.
He started using opiates to just calm his depression, so he's mellowed out.
It's just weird to me because we always structure these podcasts as if we're going to talk about the songs in a particular order, and then we just end up talking about them in random order, and that's fine. That's cool. So yeah, I mean, it's in terms of where it is on the album, I think end is appropriate for it. When you assess the rest of the album and the other songs and the flow and everything. I get some arguments. Some people say it kind of ends the album well. Other people are like, could the album end more dramatically or something? And I get both sides of that. But I say with what we ended up getting, it makes sense at the end. It's a fine song. Yeah, I mean, I think I ranked it fairly low on Bad for Good as well. In terms of version, they're fairly close for me. Whereas I love both versions of Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through, and those are close for me in that regard. This is a song that I'm okay with, and so both versions are okay to me in that regard. It's perfectly fine and nice. It just doesn't really excite me like an exciting song would. It doesn't particularly move me like other ballads might do. But yeah, nothing against the song. It's a nice little song.
Mike is not as into that Peter Pan shit, and apparently neither is Gavin.
Well, look, I think it was great that Jim Steinman wrote a song about a Kiefer Sutherland vampire film and a Betty White sitcom. Especially, Betty White, R.I.P., of course.
Even wrote it before the movie came out.
No, Lost Boys was an 80s film. Oh, but this song is earlier than 93. Yes, well, let me just have this joke, Greg. Yeah, it's a pretty piano ballad. I think I like it more than For Crying Out Loud from Bat 1 as an ender. I say that also having not heard that in a while, so I need to, check that out again. But and this also reminds me of the Steinman Meat Loaf Corgan.
Oh yeah,
we're waiting for this one, baby.
That they tried to write, which
Where the Lost Boys Fear to Tread.
Where the Lost Boys and Golden Girls Fear to Tread. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. That is one Smashing Pumpkins connection to this album. The other more tangible one is the drums on Adore when they're played by, the drums on the Adore tour when they were played by a person sound kind of similar, right? Kenny Aronoff played drums on this and for the Adore tour for the Pumpkins. And if you ever hear their version of Rock and Roll, right, the cover of not Billy Squier, who did Rock and Roll originally? Hey kid, no, not the other one. The Hey Kid, Rock and Roll, Rock On, not Rock and Roll. The song's called Rock On.
David Essex.
David Essex. Yeah. The drumming on the Pumpkins version of Rock and Roll is also Kenny Aronoff, and it's great. So that's my take on this song. And
Kenny Aronoff really is kind of underrated.
Oh, he's a great drummer.
Yeah, he's a great drummer.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal drummer. Rock On, not Rock and Roll.
He's the drummer on Jack and Diane, isn't he? The story behind him recording the live drums for Jack and Diane is excellent because there's a drum machine on it, isn't there? And he kind of went, fuck you, I'm going to put some live drums on this as well. And his live drums on it are really cool.
And the clapping was only to be used as a metronome. Initially, that wasn't supposed to be on the take, but they realized that it sounded so great with that clap, that they kept it. And Kenny's fill on that song.
Oh yeah, there's that big Phil part. Yeah,
it is Phil Collins quality Phil right there.
Yeah, I'll agree. I'll agree. And that's my take on Golden Girls and Kiefer Sutherland.
All right, well, next up on the list, the cream rises to the middle. Because kind of everyone put this in the middle, except for one person who put this very high. Next up on the list is objects in the rearview mirror may appear closer than they are. I actually will go first on this one. I will not say this about... This is maybe the only Steinman song I will say this about. It is too long and it drags.
Oh, yeah.
You don't say.
Hot take Troyan.
Yes, I've... People will be shocked that the guy who loves Jim Steinman would say, like, you know what, maybe you could have cut this one a little bit and it drags, but this is so slow and so long. And the thing is, it's actually an amazing song. And you have 3 different verses with 3 great narratives. First narrative, your childhood best buddy who dies tragically and you're haunted by that, that the sadness you feel just knowing that friend will never be there. And then verse 2, which is one of the most emotionally powerful sequences in music for me personally, because oh damn, the PTSD about the memories of your abusive parent grabbing you from behind and never being able to escape that your entire life, that shit is really true and it's really haunting and brilliantly done, especially since that is also Meat Loaf's life. So that is absolute perfection and genius. And then, of course, it's a Meat Loaf Jim Steinman song, so more important than your PTSD and your friend being dead is that time you got laid and it was really awesome. And so that is the climax of the song. Pun intended, climax. Most important thing is oh yes, I must remember that amazing, back of my car sex is the most important thing, more than your PTSD from the child abuse. Spoilers, that's not how it works in my head, but hey, good for you, Jim Steinman, for doing it that way. But it is slow and plodding, and you feel the length of that 10 minutes more than other Steinman songs. Other Steinman songs, it's an 8-man song and it feels like 3. It just flies by, even the ballads. This one does feel long, and actually, this is the rare case on this album where the song was covered later and done better. In Jim Steinman's Tans der Vampire musical, it is sung by a vampire who's reminiscent on the different victims he had and how awesome it was killing those people and drinking their blood. It is the better version of this song. And so, even though it doesn't have the emotional resonance of PTSD child abuse, vampire version is better, and it actually is a little bit snappier. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this one. I'll just go straight down the line. Steve, you ranked it 1 point higher than me. Why do you like the slow ballad more than I do?
Well, I like this particular slow ballad because I figure if you're going to do a slow ballad, then at least make it epic. Make it, 10 minutes long and have an elaborate 3-act structure and be sort of anchored around a pun. If you're going to do a ballad, that is the correct way to do it objectively. And I will brook no discussion.
All right, well, it's a podcast, so there will be some discussion. I'll add one more thing. This is one of the songs that did not sell this to 12-year-old me. This was not quite the, not a selling point. Victor, you ranked the same spot as me, 5 points. Thoughts on this one?
This one was initially my last place. I don't know if you guys knew this, but objects in the rearview mirror may appear closer than they are.
I just wish someone would have said that
Right.
in the song.
Would anyone mind
They are
iterating this to me
closer.
even once? But the last time I listened to it, I was very moved by the narrative.
Yep.
I think it's very well written, and it would have been great at 7 minutes. But the instrumental section in there is really cool. I want to make sure that is known. Really, really well put together.
Jamie, you put this one spot below myself and Victor. What are your thoughts on this one?
As I mentioned earlier, I think that this is a brilliant album for the most part, and that most of the songs are at least a 7 out of 10. And this is one of those songs where there were kind of 4 songs that I thought were 7 out of 10 songs, and any of them could have been ranked in any of their respective positions where I ranked them. What I've written down here, which I will censor for the sake of the surprise of the podcast, not that I know what the final ranking is, so I'm improvising here like a proper musician. What I wrote down was, it's nice, but it's not the song we've probably all ranked as being the best song on the album. It's a piano ballad. It's nice, but it's not the really good one that's on the album.
Yeah. Mike, you gave this the same ranking as Jamie. Similar thoughts?
Actually, I just had my mind blown in the past minute or so with a crazy connection that I've semi-connected before and just now fully made a connection, because objects in the rearview mirror may appear closer than they are. The first like real significant memory I have of that phrase is the amazing 1993 film Jurassic Park, when they're like in a car and the T-Rex is chasing them, and it goes to the mirror, and the T-Rex looks incredibly close already, and then you see the little objects in the rearview mirror may be even closer than they are. You know, you're like, whoa, it must be so close, that T-Rex. And then I realized this song came out like 3 months later in the same year. Did Jim Steinman just like go on a break to watch Jurassic Park and was like, you know what would be a badass song title? I mean, I wouldn't rule that out, to be honest with you. Obviously, the overall narrative is nothing really about Jurassic Park, or is it? Because life finds a way, and it's kind of just about the things that happen throughout one's life. And like you said, Greg,
The third verse is "Life Finds a Way," definitely.
I mean, I mean, that's what makes the song. I mean, that's the good thing about the song, is that I like
laid.
Well, yeah, that. But I mean, in terms of the narrative and the different parts, it is a very moving, very interesting piece, and those are the things I like about it. Why I kind of ranked it middle-ish is I have to be in the mood for this one. Like when I'm in the mood and I really want to sit down and listen to it, I find it very sincere and moving and well written, well composed, and all that good stuff. But there are other times when I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and skip this one. And it's far from the only song in general that I skip, so that's not meant to be an insult. But it's for me, it's a mood song, but one that's done very well, so I like it.
Yeah.
So the thing with that objects in the mirror are closer than they appear line is that is, in fact, only on the passenger side mirror. So, in fact,
Yes, I
Jim
believe
was
that's correct.
probably just like cruising around in the passenger's car seat of someone else's car.
Yeah, Jim never
when
had
he
a driver's
spotted
license, so he
Yeah,
probably
he
didn't know. He didn't know that was probably only a thing on that side.
because he's not looking at the other mirrors.
Well, I mean, the way I look at it is that probably is true. He probably saw that while someone else was driving him to and then back from seeing Jurassic Park.
Yeah, unfortunately, the song "Life Finds a Way" was cut from the album last minute. Just wasn't enough space with this song.
I can picture
Let's see.
Meat Loaf saying that. Life finds a way.
It's a shame because the original track on Pandora's Box, or the original name for that group was Clever Girl.
I will say this about this song before we move on to the next panelist. Most of the songs in this album were clearly not written for Meat Loaf, as evidenced by the fact that they're covers. But this feels like a song that was very intensely written with Meat Loaf's life story in mind and tapping into the emotion of the person he was presenting the song to sing. And so I think he's done that a few times with Meat Loaf in particular, and those have turned out to be very good songs. Julia, it is your turn. You also gave this 4 points, so same as Mike and Jamie. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think this song is very good. But I agree with Mike in that, like, it is a mood song. I think one of the reasons that factored in, aside from what we've already talked about with the length being utterly ridiculous, is that it? Okay,
Jim Steinman would
this is
like
going to
hear
sound
that.
really shallow for only a moment, I hope. But this song it's beautiful. It's moving. I think it's such a great way to talk about just, living with trauma and like grief and all of that, the stuff you carry with you. However, this song isn't fun to listen to. You definitely have to be in the mood to interact with this song because it is, it's not shy about what it's for, which is about getting laid. But most importantly, that's the grief I carry with me is
that I'll
getting
never
laid in
get
my
that
car.
sweet girl back again.
Yeah. Bring me back.
Steinman's Requiem for a Dream.
I miss your titties. Oh. But yeah, I find that and this is coming from me, Captain Emo. I just find that this song is like even when I'm in the mood to listen to sad songs, this isn't quite my brand, but I do really think it's an excellent song. The lyrics are exceptional in this one. So you win some, you lose some.
Well, Gavin wins some with this. He ranked it the highest, gave it 9 points.
I am shocked that this song is not higher. This song is the third best song on the album. It's dare I say, the centerpiece of the album. Which is weird to say and probably wrong, given that I Would Do Anything for Love is on this album as well. But that's at the beginning, so that can be the beginning piece. Beginning piece. But it's something that just dawned on me about this song. Now, obviously, the name of this song is Objects in the Rearview Mirror May Appear Closer Than They Are. What is the phrase written on the side mirrors?
Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear.
Exactly. Yeah. So that clever wordplay. I think old Jimmy Boy is trying to do some, those things in his past are far behind him, but they're still so close to him.
Right.
Clever.
As I said, it's anchored around a pun. It is a misreading of the side mirror. It's great.
Oh, I missed you saying that. I'm sorry. But
no, we're on the same page.
Oh yes, you and me.
I'm waving my finger around dramatically and like incoherently so as to not smack my microphone and ruin the podcast.
Okay, and maybe Jamie will be the only one who appreciates this, but to me, this song is a lot like David Bowie's "Teenage Wildlife" from the Scary Monsters album.
I can see that.
What?
Yeah, just in terms of it's
not as interesting.
It's different. It's interesting in a different way because I think Teenage Wildlife is just this sprawling, melodramatic, introspective, but it's a great song.
Objects in the mirror. That's ridiculous.
I'm not a piece of object in the mirror. My Bowie impression.
List all to our worst Bowie impressions.
No, I thought this song was excellent. That instrumental bit is amazing. I really like the lyrics. The weird like jolt between the differences in all the verses. Like, yeah, that first one about his friend dying and then his dad beating him and then fucking in a car. It's like, it's so, it's one of those kinds of things. And of course he wants that lady to teach him about
the mystery and the muscle of love.
Yeah, and why people like that Alice Cooper album.
Alice
so
Cooper
much.
reference. Oh, there, see, Gavin.
Muscle
Yep.
of Love, yeah, which, Muscle of Love, it's got some great tracks on it, but I wouldn't put it among the best of the ACG, original ACG albums.
And that's, you just reminded me, one of the most over-the-top lyrics in a Steinman song about the woman in the backseat rising up like an angel out of a tomb. That is the most overly dramatic way to describe like teenage car sex.
Oh, just
No,
you wait.
it's so
We have
right.
an even better song with an even better line about an angel coming up, hopefully later on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Well, and
That only makes great spoken word track that we should have talked about 2 hours ago.
Mike, you cannot tell me you didn't see this coming.
Actually, you know what it is? That's what blows my mind so much is I genuinely did not. I knew, okay, it'll come in like third from the bottom, way too high than it should. But I mean, we've talked about so many legitimately great, well-crafted songs, and like,
Next on the list is Wasted Youth. Mike, just keep going.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
No,
Wasted Youth is like really cool, but like it's really cool on, well, shit, what is it called on
Love and Death
Bad
and an
for
American
Good.
Guitar.
Yeah, there we
Bad
go.
for
There
Good.
we go. I'm like, oh man, I'm having one of those.
This is
scenes.
also
wait.
a cover from Bad for Good, Gavin.
Yes.
There's
yeah.
another version
Well,
of this.
that's another thing where I'm like, which one? There's different.
This is a
different,
cover.
Yeah, it's a spoken word cover. I mean, like,
Is it
It's
actually a cover, or is it just the exact same
it's actually-
recording?
no,
Alright,
it's a
so-
different. It's a different recording.
No,
Yeah,
it's
there's more
actually actually it is the same recording. He just changed
it?
the backing samples. So it is the exact
Okay.
same
Is it?
monologue. But he
So it
just
is his
changed-
same monologue.
Yeah, it's the exact same recording, the same
Okay.
monologue. Jim
I must
Steinman
have-
just changed the background stuff.
I must have like the
that
background
makes me
stuff
happy.
must have changed my perspective because I'm like, he did a really good job of like re-recording his vocals on this one.
Didn't
Okay, so
re-record the vocals,
that
it's
makes
the same
sense.
vocals.
Okay. I mean, okay, that makes it even more ridiculous that we're ranking this as like the second best track on the album. We can't even rank it as a song. This, unlike Back into Hell, this one literally is not a song, and it's cool. But it's like we're basically, I mean, we just all of you, and then me just approached this ranking differently. I was like, I'm gonna rank songs. You guys are like, we're just gonna rank things that like seem cool to
Things
us.
on
Like,
the album, tracks on the album.
No, I mean,
This is
I
a ranking of
agree.
Tracks
I agree,
on the
but, like,
album.
I'm like, I listen to an album, a piece of music for the music. You guys are like, I'd rather listen to podcasts, and Wasted Youth is the closest thing to a podcast, and therefore that's my favorite. And I hate music, therefore the other 10 songs on the album get ranked below it. I just
I
can't.
want to
believe you
know
guys,
what kind of podcast you're listening to.
I just can't
that are
believe
like
you guys all
Wasted
ranked
Youth.
Wasted Youth as number one when
If
it
there was
is
a
super
podcast
hella
where just
cool.
Jim Steinman talking like that for 2.5 hours,
It'd be
I would
amazing.
listen
It would be
to that.
amazing.
Oh, it'd be
Sure.
brilliant. Yeah.
All right, well then I guess, I mean, considering that it's the same vocal monologue recording, then I'm curious, first, to you, Greg, as the biggest fan, but to anyone who wants to comment, what are your takes on the differences with the sound effects? Do you think that makes
I'll
it
let you-
better? Do you think?
Yeah, I'll go next.
You think? Yeah.
I only gave this 3 points because, when I was younger, this was one of my favorite tracks on the album because I thought it sounded like a villain monologue. And the thing is, in a vacuum, it still is one of the best tracks on the album. But as I compare it to the original, I somehow think the restraint on the original version ultimately led to it being a more effective piece.
I feel like it's creepier on the original
I think
version.
the original version is creepier, and I think you've got like
It's
the
darker, yeah.
the sound effects on that one. It's more minimalist and really lets you like savor in the monologue. But I mean, the fact that you have like the sexy angel moans and then like his orchestra samples from Pandora's Box. He took samples from another Jim Steinman album and put it on top of the monologue. So I
But the
admire.
original isn't on this album.
I'm sorry.
The original isn't on this album.
The original monologue is, but just with different sound effects. He took sound effects from Pandora's Box, new sound effects, and don't get me wrong, this is awesome. But the thing is, I do prefer listening to the version on Bad for Good, and so it's like, between the two, I'm sometimes in the mood for this one. I just gave it a number. Honestly, if this in a different mood, this could be like my number, like it'd be like 8 or 9. It could be like really high. And I don't begrudge anyone who ranks this really high because it's Jim Steinman talking about like the blood being Chuck Berry red, and it ends with a joke. It's rad as shit, but I prefer the original. What can I say? Steve, you put this at the bottom. Do you also prefer the original? Steve is muted. Steve is still muted.
Sorry, I forgot that I was muted for a second there. All of my jokes that I've been making for the last several minutes. I had actually forgotten that there was an original of this one. I put this one on the bottom, and I included in my notes like, well, this is just silly. And then as I've been going back and checking how I ranked things on Bad for Good, I realized that the monologue on that one I also put at the bottom with the comment of, well, this is just silly. So I'm at least consistent in one thing, and that is not being super stoked for Steinman monologues.
Jamie probably is be a lot more stoked.
It'd probably be a lot more fun live, honestly. Like
when we did
just got up there and like ranted about something for 2 or 3 minutes with some random backing track, and you had no idea what he was talking about or what he was building to. I feel like it'd be a lot more fun. But listening to it repeatedly on an album, no.
That's fair. So basically, you'd like it if you saw it like at a house show in Nashville, and then you'd actually probably respect it if you bought it on a punk band album. But because it's Jim Steinman,
honestly, even if I saw it at like Bridgestone, if Celine Dion got up there and started talking about like I killed a man with an electric guitar, that would rule.
Oh, Gavin, the original has a different title. The original is called Love and Death and an American Guitar. So Jamie, you ranked this at the bottom also. Why do you not like the song?
Well, it's not a song for a start. I just wrote not arsed in my notes. I wasn't arsed on Bad for Good. I'm still not arsed now. It's just, yeah. I prefer the truncated version when Steve used to use it as a sting. I liked that. That's my favorite version of it. But yeah, it's just, I like drama. I think drama's great. I'd just rather have another song like that really good song that's on the album, but better than the other 2 songs that try to be like that really good song on the album. I'd rather have something like that.
All right, so Mike, now you've heard from those of us who put it towards the bottom, even though, like, on a different whim, I could have put it equally towards the top. Like I said, my ranking, aside from number 1, doesn't matter. But Victor put this as number 1, Gavin put this as number 1, and Julia put this as number 2. So, you know what? Have at it, Gavin. Now that you've learned that this is actually just straight up the monologue from Bad for Good, you just took the MP3 and then just added some new backing tracks to behind
MP3, wow.
In 1993, he had an MP3?
That's how advanced Jim Steinman was.
That's pretty fucking cool.
That would be like unadvanced.
Came from
he was
future,
like going
right?
backward if he was using MP3.
Yeah. Well, Jim's a rebel. He does things his own way.
There you go. I mean, this to me, I when this first came up during my first listen, my jaw hit the floor and remained there for the entire time. Earlier in this episode, I said that if Bat Outta Hell is original Star Wars, Bat Outta Hell 2 is Empire Strikes Back. I will continue that line of thought by saying that if the spoken intro to Took the Words Right Out of My Mouth is the Obi-Wan Vader lightsaber fight, then this Wasted Youth is the Luke Vader lightsaber fight on Bespin. It is just so perfect. I could listen to Jim Steinman rant about whatever the fuck he wanted to for hours. He's got this amazing rhythm of building up these ridiculous, grandiose, but somehow still super badass like things, like the whole well, the whole spoken intro took the words right out of my mouth. You know,
I once
the
made a
birth
playlist
and
of all
movement.
the Jim Steinman monologues.
Are there more?
There's more.
Yes. Okay. But
There's
but-
one about motorcycles fucking in alleys.
good. And then his ability to just like set these things up and then end them with these lines that just are funny and bring the whole thing back to earth in this weird way, like the whole, you know, I bet you say that to all the boys, you know, and then
That's
you
no
know
way
I
to
love
choose
you,
expensive musical instruments.
Yeah.
you know I love you, but you've got a lot to learn about rock and roll. Like that's just a great. Yeah, that's just a fucking. It's brilliant. It's brilliant, and I know that this is our big tribute to Meat Loaf, the man himself.
Does he appear on this track at all?
No,
And he also doesn't appear on Back into Hell.
and so therefore it I suppose this is more of a continuation of our salute to Steinman, that I think this is the best thing on the album. And I like this album a lot. This is an album that I can see myself listening to when cooking and doing other things.
Oh yeah.
Filling the okay, I'm not. I'll type out what I was about to say. Yeah, no, it's a great song.
When looking up pictures of Jim Steinman the Hedgehog.
I tried and I couldn't find anything good.
I'll have
But
to
I
make one.
did Google Jim Steinman the Hedgehog.
I'll have to make one, like put aviator sunglasses and a leather jacket on him.
There you
There's got
go.
to be Jim the Hedgehog kicking around.
Well,
Yeah,
I
but
just
it has
got
to
one
be
of these.
Jim Steinman specifically. Like, you don't just say Jim. You say Jim Steinman. You have to do the full name.
Yeah.
True.
Or I mean, when he and I used to go golfing together, I'd call him Jimmy Steiny Boy. me, Jimmy Steiny Boy, and old P Stumps used to.
Oh man.
P stumps.
And I'll say one more thing before we move on to the to the couple. I think one reason why I ranked this lower is also because I do like the song it leads into, but it leads into a much better song on Bad for Good.
Agreed. 100% agreed. That
Go
was
ahead,
something
Victor.
I was going to talk about.
But sorry, I do have one more point though. Wasted Youth is such a brilliant piece.
Oh, that is new. He did shout the words "wasted youth." That wasn't on the original.
Okay. But Wasted Youth is such a great piece that it took that name away from the song that should have been called Wasted Youth.
Yeah.
And it had to take another name because the spoken interlude to it
Is better.
is better than the song that it was leading into, and therefore the song that it was used as a setup for could not be called the name that the setup was setting up.
Okay, but you wrong, though.
You know what? I ranked it higher than Wasted Youth, but Wasted Youth is better. So like,
Wasted Youth is a way better spoken word track on a musical
better
album.
track on this album.
One's a better song.
Yeah, but it's a.
Are
it's
we ranking like theatrical?
we're ranking how much
monologues?
we
No.
enjoy the tracks on the CDs.
I mean, yeah, I get
The
that, and I
tracks in
can't tell
order
you
of
guys-
how
I
much you
can't
like
tell-
them, Mike.
No, I agree. I can't tell you guys what you do and don't enjoy. It's just funny to me because it's like if I watch a movie, and this would be the equivalent of like, I don't know, you guys were talking about Star Wars earlier, which I also enjoy. But it'd be like me being like, you know what I really liked about Star Wars? The way they like did the credits in space and like formatted it so that they were like going upward at an angle. That looked really cool.
I
And
mean,
you'd be
look,
like,
I don't
"Man,
like
that's
most Star
That
Wars
is
movies.
cool.
You'd be like, yeah,
What are the
that's
best
cool.
parts?
cool and revolutionary thing that Star Wars did. with
Yeah,
the
but like
ball.
that's the best part of Star Wars is the way they did the paragraphs. You know what I mean? No, it wasn't. It was the
No,
overall
it's not
story.
the best thing, but it's
I know,
something
but that's the equivalent. If I told you my favorite part of Star Wars was the paragraphs, you guys would be losing your shit. You know what I mean?
No.
That's the
dead
equivalent.
speak.
I love it when they're talking about, the trade federations and stuff.
Oh, with the Nemoidians?
Yeah. Just
I
like the
love
opening
the
crawl
paragraphs.
of
The
Phantom
paragraphs
Menace.
are the
best.
wasted youth of Star Wars. That's the point I'm making. Cool, and it's good they're there, but
I don't disagree. I feel like if they were going to make any comparison, this would be because this is something. It's not like just the the intro to the movie, this would be like a character beat. So like, let's say you're watching like an action movie, but you really appreciate like a small character scene. That's what this would be. So like, if you're ranking like your favorite moments in the Matrix franchise, and most of it is going to be like, oh, bullet time shit, and just like all the cool action set pieces. But then someone's like, but I really like that scene where it's the, Neo talking to the architect is what this more is. If as far as a 1-to-1 comparison, it's not the opening crawl. I feel like that's a different thing.
Ergo, instantaneously.
Indubitably, I remember
Indubitably.
vis-a-vis.
But like, okay,
very red.
Like Kiss Alive and Kiss Alive 2, right? Sure, you're not listening to it exclusively for Paul Stanley's raps, but that album would lose a lot of its charm if they weren't there.
You're like, the Cold Gin rap is better than most of Alive. Like,
yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. It's like saying a rap is better than the extended live version of "Let Me Go Rock and Roll," and that's just insanity.
I will say, okay,
it is the Cold Gin. You know what? The Cold Gin.
I mean, that's
rap
the point. Then you're just like
you're just
saying things like for fun, which is cool. This is a podcast and it's meant to be entertaining. But I come at it from a factual perspective. Like I'm just saying things that are accurate. You're just saying things
facts
that,
and logic
just sound like things like.
Would I Want You on Alive 2 be as good without that weird without the Paul Stanley call and response thing? What? Wow, 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 wow. That whole thing. And like, yeah, no,
So Victor, you were wholeheartedly agreeing with me that Bad for Good, the version of Bad for Good leads into a better song. Just go ahead. Thoughts on this?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think here's the thing. I guess technically this, I wasn't thinking about this as a cover, quote unquote. The thing is, both versions of this are great. So there's no need to even debate whether one is better than the other because they're both awesome.
That is the entire point of this podcast, though.
Yeah, but the song that Wasted Youth leads into is not nearly as good as Stark Raving Love. And it does not have nearly the intro that Stark Raving Love does.
That's true.
Which if the intro of Everything Louder was as good as that, I would give it a bigger pass. But man, like that transition on Bad for Good is unbelievably great.
Now we're back to making some sense because I'm a big Stark Raving Love fan. I can definitely agree with taking that song over Everything Louder Than Everything Else.
Yeah.
Even though Everything Louder Than Everything Else seems like it would be more of a Mike Walsh song. Fascinating.
It does. Well, and we'll get to it when I get to it.
I'm full of mystery, aren't I?
But I mean, the sound design on this one just incredible. Even if it was just literally just taking a thing from Pandora's Box, also, which is also incredible.
He sampled himself twice on this track.
Yeah,
That is a
really
very
remarkable
Jim Steinman
stuff.
thing to do.
That's
He gets to be the songwriter twice, so he's paid twice as much.
This is just great. I don't know what else can be said.
Julia, what else can be said?
I mean, I had the exact same reaction as Gavin, where it started and I was like, this is the best part of this album. It's just the highlight of the album. And I don't joke. I don't tell jokes. I don't make jokes.
She didn't come to fuck around.
I take this shit deadly serious. No bits here, no goofs. Wasted Youth fucking rules, and it's better to listen to than all of the songs that I ranked below it.
Wasted.
Which is
Goofs.
everything except for one other song. I love the sound design work. I love the Moaning Angel and
notes I've never even heard.
I love the
before.
fucking screaming back behind that part. That's the thing is that also, I mean, as someone who grew up on punk, I'm no stranger to songs where it's just some fucking guy talking while some other stuff happens. So I was ready. I was perfectly ready for this, and yeah.
As a Tom Waits fan, I have the same same experience.
I feel like I
Yeah,
much prefer
so-
Jello Riaf ranting about trade policies, though.
Oh, Jello can be a bit tedious.
Yeah,
No, that's why you make the B side Noam Chomsky, so that like no matter what happens with the A side, like it sounds exciting by comparison.
Never underestimate the power of juxtaposition utilized correctly.
Which was done better on Bad for Good.
Yeah, because the juxtaposition here, unfortunately, man, it makes everything louder so much worse in comparison because Wasted Youth is just too good.
I didn't realize that Jello Biafra's brother, Juxtaposition Biafra, was on this album.
Well, speaking of everything louder than everything else, that's next on the list. It's a good song. This one, I remember when I was running a Kiss message board, this was one of the more divisive songs of the album where some people loved it, some people hated it. And enough people, like, it's like when Mike had enough people rag on Body and Soul, where it knocked it down some notches for him, where enough people ragged on this one consistently, and I saw their points like, oh man, I get it. But also, like, it's a fun rock song that steals a riff from a Better Stars song, so that's pretty cool. And it's the only Jim Steinman song I know that references the Three Stooges, so that's cool, I guess. But this is sort of like the ultimate boomer anthem in many ways, where it's just like, man, I don't want to have like responsibilities, I just want to party. But also, like, I'm a grown-ass adult now, and I should probably, like, take care of the world somewhat for the next generation. So, like, it is a pretty, like, power boomer anthem. But I like it. It's like, you know, it's a good song. I still dig it. And it's, you know, it's just one of the, it is a fun rock song, but maybe one of the weaker ones overall. If I'm ranking every Jim Steinman song, it's like lower on the list, but not absolute bottom. Steve, you gave this 9 points, so you ranked this the highest.
Yeah. Oh, did I really? I had the strongest opinion of this one. Yeah, this one's oh wow, look at that. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think this one's really good. I think if you're gonna like write an anthem about the idea of rock and roll, this is a much better take on that idea than say Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through. Where Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through is all about like, yeah, rock and roll is great and makes life better and believe in yourself. This one's just like, you know what? I just like everything being fucking loud though. Yeah. How loud is that thing? All right, make it louder than the other thing. How loud was that first thing? All right, make it louder than the second thing again.
Yeah, I mean, you rate this higher than freaking everyone else. So, I mean, I guess, it definitely, it rocks more than the adult contemporary song about rock and roll. So it has
everything
that
louder
for it.
than everything else. Everything louder than everything else. Everything louder than everything.
Well, Victor,
Great.
who famously likes quiet things, ranked this, gave this 3 points.
Light as a feather.
Everything louder than everything else. Everything louder than everything else. Everything louder than
Everything else.
Yeah, frankly, this song disappointed me a little bit because you get your setup with Wasted Youth. And the thing I liked so much about Stark Raving Love is it actually like lived up to the setup before it with the punchiness of that kind of piano riff and like instantly in with the drums and stuff. And this one just has like the guitar riff, but it's not punchy. It doesn't work the same way. And then frankly, that is an amazing title for a song, and the song's just okay. And it's kind of a bummer for me. But it does have a very important lyric, which is, as far as I'm concerned, the earth could still be flat. Which, you know?
Ultimately, this is a song title that Jim Steinman couldn't truly write for, if you want to put it that way. Like, this is something that should be a Motorhead song. Like, fast and simple, so you can do the entire song at 100% volume with no dynamics.
It should be an AC/DC song.
Yeah, right. Like that sort of thing. Like Steinman, like everything louder than everything else. It doesn't really work because Steinman songs are all about the journey and the build, and you're going to be here for 10 minutes. And you can't be louder than everything else that entire time. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. The chorus is really great, though, and the kind of lead up to the pre-chorus is also very good. But this one just doesn't totally work for me.
I had to check that to make sure, but I thought there was a Motorhead connection. It is true that in the late 90s, they released a live album of that title. So Motorhead was heavily influenced by Meat Loaf.
Oh,
Nice.
Motorhead understood what the song really needed to be from the get-go.
But you are right. That does have a very Motorhead-esque kind of connotation of just, pure loudness.
We've only got 4 things going on in this song, and they're all very loud.
But I think that is a fair criticism that the harder rock songs in the Jim Steinman catalog, their success with what they're trying to do is, I think, more open to debate. So I think that is a very fair critique. Let's see. So who is next up? So Jamie, you gave the 7 points. How did this stack up to Stark Raven Love?
Well, it was one of those tracks that, again, as I mentioned, half of the album could have been 7 out of 10 for me, which is still quite respectable. But yeah, it was fine. I just thought that it was really unacceptable to wait more than 2 minutes for a chorus. Like, once the lyrics are in, I appreciate that on this album, most of the songs wait 2 minutes before the chorus comes in, but that's because there's a large instrumental section opening it up. But yeah, it just seems unacceptable to wait more than 2 minutes for a chorus, and then for the chorus to kick in and just be a really fast version of Little Willie by The Sweet, but not as good.
Wow.
Scathing but fair.
I mean, it's still a good song.
Yeah,
I still like it. I just like The Sweet more.
I think Little Willie is a better song. So yeah, I mean that's fair. So Mike, how does this stack up to Little Willie and Stark Raven Love?
I'll start with Stark Raven Love because overall I think I like Stark Raven Love as a song better. But Everything Louder Than Everything Else ticks more of my classic boxes of just I want to rock with everything louder than everything else. Yeah, like wasted youth, motherfuckers. I don't know, it hits me more primally. But if I'm being a little more objective, I'm no, I think I really dig Stark Raven Love more. And Little Willie, a great song. I don't. What was the connection to Little Willie? Why are we comparing those two songs? I don't quite get it.
Jamie said the chorus of the song is just Little Willie, but not as good.
Everything louder than everything else.
Yeah, kind of. I don't hear it, but Jamie is the musician. I'll default to him. In this moment. I'll try to hear
one
it later.
note in the chorus of everything louder than everything else. There's way more notes than Little Willie.
I will say though, it's interesting because a couple of you have mentioned that Everything Louder Than Everything Else is it's more true to rock and roll than Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through, because Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through is not a rock song, it's a pussy little AC song. And I'm whoa. And I think I finally realized what's going on and why you guys hate that song so much. Because I didn't think of it as I need that song to shred my nuts. I don't think of it as a song that needs to be a hardcore riff rocker. I think of it as more of oh man, sometimes you've been through a lot and you're just hoping for that miracle, and sometimes rock and roll dreams come through. So for me personally, it's a song for a guy who's hoping on a prayer and also happens to rock music, and it's yeah, my rock and roll dreams came through. I don't need it to actually sound nah, hardcore rock and roll in that moment. So maybe that's why I like it and all of y'all hate it, but
I agree with your take. I agree with your take, and I think it's a much better song, but not on this album. Sorry, Gavin, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'll refute that take by saying, look, I like God Gave Rock and Roll to You, too, which is another song
two
about...
as in the number or as in also? Just want to clarify. Are you talking about the art?
He's just clarifying he means the Kiss version.
I'm being a dick. I just didn't know if you were referring to the Argent
because we're talking
original.
About the original version versus the sequel.
Yeah.
I should say I enjoy God Gave Rock and Roll to You, too.
I'm kidding, Gavin. I'm kidding.
Which would be God Gave Rock and Roll to You Too, like the band, too, also. But yeah, no, and maybe I liked Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through, but it's not hang on.
It's Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through is more of a documentary about rock and roll dreams coming through than it is a rock and roll song.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, that connected. And I respect that it didn't for the rest of you. But yes, thank you for at least it's documentary. Thank you, Victor. Thank you.
I don't need all of my songs to rock hard, but I do need all of them to go hard.
You do need all of them to be nasty, as we have learned.
I need. That's the thing. Like, Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through wasn't nasty. Everything Louder Than Everything Else is still not to my taste in terms of nastiness.
But let's look at some of these lyrics.
It's more
though.
approaching.
It's a little nastier than Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through. Let's be honest here.
Sign up, all you raw recruits. Throw away those designer suits. You got your weapons cocked. Your target's in sight. There's a party raging somewhere in the world. You got to serve your country. Got to service your girl.
I mean, that's a great line.
It is.
That's a great line.
There are some very great lines in the song, and it's still a good song. It's just like it's just not Stark Raven Love good.
Gene Simmons wishes he could write that.
Yes.
I think yeah, it's very middle of the road, isn't it? That's my takeaway from this song. Is like it's not exceptional. It's not bad. It's just like it's fine.
Gavin, how's the stack up to Stark Raven Love?
Stark Raving Love is probably better. I haven't heard it. I'm going to listen to Bad for Good finally. I think I'm going to take that leap.
It's gonna be very interesting when you hear it, and you should listen to Pandora's Box too, and just
the Aerosmith box set.
No, the Pandora's Box Jim Steinman girl group album, which is where the other songs from this album come from. When you hear those two albums, and then go back to this, like, oh my god, I get it now. This is completely different. It's like
Great.
The second time you watch like The Sixth Sense, it's gonna be like that different.
My experience with The Sixth Sense is I had it spoiled for me before I saw it, so I as a result never enjoyed the movie.
Okay, so imagine you didn't know the twist and you watched it twice.
Okay.
That's what it's like if you listen to Bad for Good and Pandora's Box and then go back to this and you're like, oh shit.
Again, I'm not sure why you want me to listen.
The color red symbolizes his dick.
Again, I'm not sure why you want me to listen to an Aerosmith box set.
Yeah, I know. I have the box set. I know what you're talking about, but I'm talking about the original Sin Pandora's Box album.
No, but do you get my joke?
Yeah, I have the box set.
Could you tell it again, please, just for those of us in the back?
Aerosmith put out a box set that is called Pandora's Box, and Greg wants me to listen to it.
I have the box.
Greg, you don't have to ship it to me. It's okay. My family has a copy too.
Gavin likes getting packages.
Just one more explanation. I'm still not getting it.
Aerosmith rock band, lots of songs, lots of discs, big tall book.
Tyler's dad's in it.
Yeah.
All right, Gavin, but
box set. It's not that many discs.
Why Gavin was entitled Pandora's Box, other than the fact that it was a box set? What was the reason behind that?
If you open it, a bunch of evil is unleashed into the world. Specifically, a bunch of Aerosmith albums.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a bunch of I've actually never listened to it, but
okay, well, it is a reference to the song Pandora's Box on their second album, so that's
okay.
Testing your knowledge, Gavin. I win this round. You win many others.
I wish they would have called it Lord of the Thighs.
Yeah, from the same album. Get Your Wings.
Yeah. Or what was it? Not Uncle Touchy, but Uncle
Salty.
Uncle Salty.
From Toys in the Attic. Yeah.
That's just
Uncle Touchy was one of the guys who made a film for that film festival, right?
Yeah, Uncle Touchy. Yeah.
Uncle Touchy's Puzzle Basement. It's a Patton Oswalt joke. But I like this song. It's good. It should have been called Wasted Youth, but I already went over my reasoning for why it isn't called Wasted Youth and why it couldn't be called Wasted Youth. But I mean, I think you guys actually, good job. You put this in the ranking right where I had it. So I had this fourth from the top. That's how much I enjoyed this song. And I have nothing really specific to say more about that. Though I suppose now would be a good time to drop this anecdote because I take notes in the text edit program on my computer. And sometimes if I have a thought, I'll just open up a new text edit window and type a thought down. Sometimes I get a little bit high, and I'll have thoughts, and then I'll write them down, and then forget about them, and then find them when I open up a text edit window to, say, write out my album ranking. And a thought came up that I wrote and forgot. So this is all that I wrote. An appeal to the History Adjustment Bureau. Please let me go back in time to 1997 to convince Brian Eno to produce Psycho Circus by Kiss. So that is why I ranked Everything Louder Than Everything Else where I did.
Bravo.
Everything more ambient than everything else.
Old sourpuss.
Well, hey, speaking of sour things, next up on the list, we have Life is a Lemon and I Want My Money Back. Except it's about, the car lemon thing and not about actual lemons, but also it's still a metaphor, so whatever. So I gave this 2 points. So I was the spoiler on this one. So this is, as we mentioned with the last song, like Jim Steinman trying to write hard rock is often not as successful with the genre. And so this is, I feel, Jim Steinman trying to write a hair metal song, and it is okay. But I think it's not nasty enough. I think I need it to be a little bit nastier. I could probably use the tempo to go
The
up
song
a
has
little bit.
anal play in it. How is it not nasty enough for you?
It can always be nastier. That's what I would say.
Okay.
It can always be nastier.
Needs more hedgehogs.
But I just think it's like it's a Jim Steinman song where there's virtually no piano on the piece, and so it's weird.
Nasty piano.
Hearing like this guitar emphasis on the material, and I think that ultimately, it's one of my. Here's the thing: it's still a really good song, and it's actually one of the essential pieces on this album because it's actually new. But I think in the grand scheme of Jim Steinman songs, it's just one of his weaker songs overall, even though I really love the bridge section where he's going through the "What about X?" It's
effective.
That section is great, but the rest of it I don't need as much. That same riff is used like in other Jim Steinman songs in cooler ways, so it's like, oh yeah, I've heard this riff before, but I don't like it as much here. It's a good song, but it's lower ranked for me, even though ultimately, like I said, my ranking doesn't matter except for my number one. The rest can go in any random order, so it's good. Steve, you gave the 7 points.
Yeah. So I like that you called yourself a spoiler on this one, even though so you ranked it at 2 and everyone else ranked it 7 to 10. So it's actually right about where it should be, and you changed nothing. You have no effect on the world, Greg. Aha! Oh no. All right. Yeah. Life is a Lemon. Yeah. So I put this one actually, high mids. It's a really solid song. This is one of the sort of standout ones on the album. If I were to make a 40-minute EP composed of only 4 songs on this album, it would make the cut.
Yeah. If you actually took just the new songs on this album, it would be about a half an hour.
So still an LP. Nice.
All 5 of them.
Yeah. So I think this one was good. I like this one. Put it in at second. I think is a good way to go sequencing wise, because you start off with the big hit single that you're gonna push to the radio, and then you lead off with the heavy one. Like this is peak CD era sequencing. No real notes. I do not need my money back. I am a satisfied customer.
Victor, you seem like you were a satisfied customer with this one. You gave it 10 points. And you're muted.
Oh, yep,
Yeah.
Sure am. So I actually, now that you sort of put it into words, I think I do agree. It does feel like a show tune version of a hair metal song. And that was kind of how I felt the first time I heard it. But then as I kept listening to it more and more in depth, it increased my jokerification exponentially. And this is like, it's just it's very fucking true. Is the thing
So fucking
is
true.
the thing about it.
So true, King.
It's
Everything is
just-
bullshit, nihilism.
There's
It's defective.
it's defective. What about nihilism? It's
defective.
It's effective.
It all sucks really bad.
It's an ill thought out edgelord philosophy. What a mean thing to say about nihilism. There are some really helpful nihilists out there. Just unfortunately, the edgelords took it.
Kind of
But-
like Rick and Morty.
Yeah, frankly, yeah. But this
Probably giving too much credit to Rick and Morty.
That first
is
season
great.
was fucking brilliant, and then the fans got shitty.
This song, though, it's like it does have that barrier of being show tune hair metal. But if you are able to push past that, I think like I think the bridge of this song is the closest in terms of just like high musical bar that like this is the closest this album ever gets to being the climactic section of Bat Out of Hell from the first Bat Out of Hell.
Yeah, that's fair. I see that.
And it's just really fucking true.
I mean, it is.
You're
like,
really
you-
mad that you didn't get that award, huh?
Yeah. Robbed.
Film festivals are a lemon. And I didn't pay anything to get in, so.
No.
They're defective.
Oh, so
Yeah.
a fun fact about Greg just not knowing things about the world. I didn't know what a lemon was when I first heard this song. And
You mean
so-
like the fruit?
No, I mean like a defective car.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
back you up on that. Nor did I. Which
So
kind of
I
made
didn't-
it more.
Never played the
It made it even
Sims
more
to
interesting to me
me.
because I was like, "Oh, what is this about? It's wild."
I thought
Somebody
just like,
didn't read enough Archie comics as a kid, and it shows.
Yeah, I thought he was talking about just like a lemonade stand and like that being bullshit. Like I didn't really get it until I watched Cars 2 and I learned what a lemon was. So thank you Cars 2 for giving me that additional Jim Steinman context.
The way I interpreted it was like I didn't know about a lemon type of car or whatever, but I thought lemon like just sour, like when life is like sour and shitty, like that.
Well,
that's,
yeah,
that's how I took it,
it's also an absolute refutation of the phrase when life hands you lemons.
right.
Right.
You
So
demand
it
your
is-
money
it is
back.
that too.
Don't ask for it to a product. Ask for your money back. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
life hands you lemons, objects in the rearview mirror are closer
Yeah.
than they appear.
Someone is throwing lemons at you, and you're driving away, and they appear closer. Well, yeah, no, they
Objects
are
in the
closer.
rearview mirror are closer than they appear because your car's not getting very far because it's a lemon.
Yeah.
While someone's throwing lemons, the fruit at you. Wow.
And it is such a great statement. Life is a lemon and I want my money back. Like, man, can I just fucking be unborn? Can we just like do over or
Yeah.
something?
It's also good because like when you just say it, it's not badass, but then when you hear it, it's badass. It's like a very goofy thing to say.
It's a very Jim Steinman thing.
Yeah.
So Jamie, how do you feel about the show tunes hair metal?
Well, I'm sure it's quite predictable what I think about show tunes hair metal. I like show tunes. I really fucking like hair metal. But I think, again, I've been speculating wildly during this podcast. I do not know the way that the rankings are going to end up, but it looks like my last three are the last three, which is nice because I always knew I was right and the rest of you were wrong. Horribly, horribly wrong. Apart from Mike, who was very right about the two worst songs on the album. But yeah, the track sounds great. I think this is the best produced song on the album. I think it's absolutely incredible the way that it's done. Yeah, the mix of it is exactly how this song should be presented, and I get fired up every time I hear it. I learned a minute ago what the lemon thing actually meant. I didn't really care. I just liked the song. I thought you were about actual lemons, the fruit, and I just thought, yeah, you've bought some shitty lemons, Meat Loaf, and you want to take them bloody buggers back. But yeah, it's amazing. But of course, it sounds like hair metal, like theatre, because the Nelson twins do the backing vocals on this. But the big tumbleweeds there. But the Nelson brothers are credited as backing vocals on this track.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so no wonder it sounds hair metal. They got in the hair metal chaps of the day to do it, which in 1993 was kind of Nelson, Winger, and that's it, really. Warrant was still making music then, weren't they? Yeah, so there we go. 3 hair metal bands were left. All the rest were trying to do grunge.
Alice in Chains.
Sorry, yeah, of course, Alison, the good Alice in Chains, yeah. So yeah, the song's great. The song is absolutely great. I love it loads, but I love everything on After the Rain more. So
that's actually very fair. That is a very fair statement.
After the Rain is an amazing album.
It is a great album.
Come on, Mike, pipe up. I know you love After the Rain.
I mean, I'm just mind blown. This is the first I'm finding out that Nelson Mandela appeared on this album. So
yeah,
mind blown.
Nelson Mandela. Yeah.
No, I mean After the Rain is excellent. But I'm just
Nelson Mandela. His vocals on Love and Affection was just top notch.
Oh, superb.
I'm realizing more and more that Jamie and I must have very similar ears because we love the production on this album. The whole album is produced so well, and yet yes, there is something a notch even better about this song. It is just produced so well, and
it's because there are 2 incredibly handsome blondes doing backing vocals. That's why.
Oh yeah, there you go. Exactly. And yeah, there's definitely that hair metal connection, which is like a negative for a lot of you, and for me, it's a plus. Like I love hair metal, and so like Meat Loaf, Jim Steinman do hair metal is it's totally up my alley. So it has those hair metal elements, but it also has the very big, over the top, crazy song title / lyrics Jim Steinman thing. The whole what about whatever section is incredible. Like you said, Greg, that's a really cool dramatic part. I just love everything about it. I mean, I think that's why I put it at number 2. It's a really, even though I had a couple other songs like deeper, longer memories from like youth.
Your wasted youth.
My wasted youth. Yeah, like Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through and I Just Won't Quit. It Just Won't Quit. I have deeper memories of those, and yet I guess only the case of It Just Won't Quit. It beat out It Just Won't Quit, I should say. It didn't quite beat out Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through, but yeah, I don't know, top level stuff. Don't really have a whole lot else to add that hasn't been said already, but excellent recording. Every album should sound like this. No, I don't genuinely mean that, but if I had to make every album sound like one album, this would be a good one to start with.
So, Gavin, I remember after we did the Bat Out of Hell episode, you listened to some of Bat Out of Hell too, and you were tickled by the song title. What are your thoughts on it now that you've heard the song?
I mean, I like it. It's a great song. It walks this fine line of just riding the edge between the concept completely working and it falling apart and being hilarious. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's a fine line to walk, and it's one that Meaty Boy and Steinman are quite good at. It also like it's interesting how there was a Roger Waters solo album called Amused to Death, which came out I think around this same time, and there's a song on that called What God Wants, which this song kind of sounds, or they sound a little similar. I mean, the lyrics are a lot different, but they sound similar-ish. But I think I have to go with this as the better song. In my notes, I took one note for this song, and it simply said, "This song is not defective."
Aww.
Yeah, it was a great song. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to stop making the same jokes.
Hey, yours was being a satisfied customer.
I guess.
Hey man, it's more hashtag content.
Hell yeah.
Well,
Slinging
how
10.
long have we been doing this? 3.5 hours? We got a lot of content.
3 hours
Oh,
and
yeah.
37 minutes.
We've got 2 songs left after this one. So Julia, what are your thoughts on Life is a Lemon and I Want My Money Back?
I'll try to keep it brief. But
20
when everyone's
minutes later.
saying, yeah. I think that some of you just need to change your attitudes, hair metal show tunes. It's good. Listen, just embrace it. Just stop saying that like it's bad because it's not. It's kind of like American Idiot. Green Day's American Idiot. I would like to see Meat Loaf's. Can't think of a name for this fucking hellish musical, but
Meat Loaf would.
You mean
fucking
Bat Out of
tear
Hell the
up.
musical, which exists?
Yeah.
See, I figured it probably already does, but like it's good.
I'm going to see it in a couple of weeks.
Show tunes should always be like
that's
this.
awesome.
Every time I watch a modern musical, I'm like, this is disgusting. And then I hear this and I'm like, this is what show tunes are actually supposed to sound like. They're supposed to be like the funny call and response, and they're just like, so I just fucking love stuff that is so over the top, nasty. Sign me up. That's what I want. This is what I'm looking for. This is more of what I'm when I open my heart to musical listenings. This is what I'm looking for. The end.
I love the line about how no detergent is able to get the stain off of the soul.
That's how dirty this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, these lyrics hit home. I need to quit my job.
Frankly, when it gets to the line about what about work, it's defective, it's a crock and then you die, I almost quit that day. Like, I was so mad.
I mean, imagine how the
So
people
bad
at
at
crockpot
work that-
factories feel. That is just really hits home for them.
Or the Crock
Crock.
Shoe Factory.
No, Victor is so mad at work that he had to walk to the pawn shop next door and buy a pedal so he would stop being so mad at
I did retail therapy on the clock.
Yeah.
I didn't mute Steve.
No,
not
I
muting
meant
anybody.
that
No, I
is-
muted
you
myself.
are muted, Steve. I
You
meant
muted,
to type.
Steve.
I know. I made a joke and then I commented halfway through that I'm muted.
Yeah, well,
I need to just shuffle
thought-
my cards now that I've finished making them. I have 100 words in Mandarin that I am ready to learn via flashcard. I am ready for the collapse of the American Empire.
Is one
Life
of them
is a Mandarin.
defective or lemon? Yeah.
No, it's an inordinately number of large, an inordinately large number of medieval weapons.
That's going to be very useful to talk about with the Chinese.
Right? I'm not sure what
I just want to talk about fantasy novels with you guys, right?
I'm not sure what the app I'm learning from is going for, but they were like, "Do you want to know the word for halberd?"
They're also preparing you to get sent back in time.
They're preparing me. Honestly, they're preparing me to play Dynasty Warriors. I guess. Nice.
Well, hey,
I
speaking
prefer
of
Unmasked Warriors.
oh, man, my transition died.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is Out of the Frying Pan and Into the Fire. Number 2 on the list. Better on Bad for Good.
Yes, but also great here.
Yes, correct. Like, this is a very good version. Like, this is one of the ones where, like, if you preferred this version over the Bad for Good version, I'm not upset with you. But the Bad for Good version is still better.
Oh, hey, this is exactly where I put this one. Also, exactly where you put this one, Greg. And also, it looks like Jamie.
Yeah.
All three of us are correct.
If this
and very
version,
cool.
if this version was as fast as the Bad for Good version, then it would be a little bit more of a toss-up for me. But losing those couple of BPM, I think, really hurts it.
This
That's
version
fair.
is the optimal version. You're all lunatics. Everything about this version is perfect. This is how it always should have sounded. Michael, back me up on that. It's the perfect tempo. When
I mean, it
is
objectively
fucking
sounds better,
superb.
that's for sure.
The way that Meat Loaf delivers it is superb. It's perfect. The song's bonkers, obviously, because it's a Steinman song, so it's about absolutely nout. But it's just
No, it's
perfect.
about getting laid. That's what it's about.
Yeah, but it's nout, is it? It's just daft music stuff. But yeah, everything about it's the way he kind of quivers as he sings "Fire" is perfect. It's just wonderful. You can see Meat Loaf performing it in your head, or I can anyway. I always see Meat whenever I see Meat. That sounds bad.
Oh.
Not good for the vegetarian within. But
I got
all them
some-
jokes Mike keeps making.
Meat for you to see.
There we go. Back to packages. But yeah, this is the optimal version.
I mean, I agree he does perform it very well, and this is, as we mentioned, songs that Jim wrote for Meat. This was on Bad for Good, but I feel like he wrote this with Meat in mind to sing it as the follow-up to Bad Out of Hell, so like he does a very good job with it. This feels a lot of the songs on this album feel just like here's just Jim Steinman songs they put on an album called Bat Out of Hell 2. This one feels like, oh yes, this makes sense as a sequel to Bat Out of Hell, this being one of the songs and being performed this way. I think it's excellent all around. I could talk about it for a while, but also I talked about a lot on the Bad for Good episode. We've been going for like 4 hours. So, Steve, do you have any comments on this one?
On Out of the Frying Pan?
Yeah.
No, it's a great song. It's energetic. It's dramatic. It's exactly the sort of thing that I want out of my Meat Loaf songs. If we're talking about changing BPMs, then honestly, I guess I would rather see it covered by, oh, why am I spacing on their name? The Norwegian elf metal band.
Yeah, those guys. They're so good.
Sonata Arctica. I would like, if we're going to change the beats per minute, let's have Sonata Arctica cover it so they can take it up by 20 plus beats per minute and do it the way it's really meant to be. But otherwise, it's perfect as it is.
Gross.
And by gross, you mean great.
Nasty.
All right, so we got Vit. Did you have any additional thoughts on the song?
Yeah, I think if you had the BPM and then the only other thing that I would say Meat Loaf's performance in it is absolutely fantastic. There is one specific lyric that he does not compare to Jim Steinman on, which is the walking wounded and the living dead.
I knew that was going to be the lyric.
in the original, it's so over the top and amazing, and Meat Loaf just doesn't have it in him. He doesn't really go over the top.
This is his memoriam episode, so please say something nice about it.
Oh, everything else about it's great, though.
Okay.
Well, for being nice to Meat Loaf in that regard, like I think it doesn't sound as ridiculous because it probably sounds better from a traditional singer's standpoint.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he actually hit the note and like it's not a problem. And this is fantastic. That one thing though is just very funny in the Jim Steinman version.
I mean, yeah, that's an accurate take. Mike, what are your thoughts on this one? This one ranking, I feel appropriately high. You don't seem too upset about this.
Sorry, just choking on some peanut butter M&Ms here. No, it's
starting to foam in the
should be ranked. Should be ranked pretty high. It's one of the best songs on the album. It's a highlight on the original Bad for Good. Both versions are great. I'm okay with anyone preferring either version. And then just sorry, I'm just choking, dying here.
It's starting to foam in the
like Steve said in the group text or whatever, out of the frying pan, he typed out the like however you want to type that.
That's the key part of this song. You really
exactly
need those.
That little part
and the pronunciation
so
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. That part is just so great. So awesome.
Right.
So what else can you say? Excellent production, great song, both albums. Iconic. I mean, this song should be bigger. Like more. I should be able to sing this at a grocery store, and people should know what I'm singing. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with that. But I will say that actually made a point as to another way the original is better. The doodly-doos are more pronounced in the original.
There's more of them too.
Yeah, there is more of them too. So another way that the original is better. So Gavin, which one is better, the original or this version?
I hope the original. Because this song, I like it. Again, I like everything on this album, but this one, it's not. This song would not be the reason I run back to this album. It'll be a nice little. Okay, I enjoy this song when it's on, but it's not something I'd really search out. That being said, it does remind me of that wonderful Steinman, Meat Loaf, and Paul Stanley song. I've had enough, out of the frying pan and into the fire.
What's the order of parentheses on that one?
It gets into brackets, man. It gets fucked up. But no, this song, I like it. It's kind of a middle of the pack song for me. I put it
Give it 4 points.
Yeah, I gave it 4 points. Just below Back into Hell. So it's it's a sturdy number. I'm excited to hear the original.
And Julia, you ranked this number 1. Which is better, the original or this version?
I didn't rank this number 1. Did I?
No, sorry. No, you gave this 9 points. I'm sorry.
Yes. I mean, perfect song, stuck in my head all since I've been listening to this album. 10 out of 10, no notes.
All right, fair enough. Well, hey, we're at the number 1 song on the album. Turns out a Steinman podcast takes a long time to do. So let's go through the ranking from the bottom to the top.
Could possibly be up there.
Let's see. Rock and Roll Dreams come through. Good Girls Go to Heaven, parentheses, Bad Girls Go Everywhere. Back into Hell. It Just Won't Quit. Lost Boys and Golden Girls. Objects in the Rearview Mirror May Appear Closer Than They Are. Wasted. Youth. Everything Louder Than Everything Else. Life is a Lemon and I Want My Money Back, and Run Out of Breath. These song titles are so long. Out of the Frying Pan and Into the Fire. But the best song on Bat Out of Hell 2, Back into Hell, according to this panel of experts, is...
Drum, 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 drum.
I'd Do Anything for Love, but I won't do that. The number 1 hit single off the album. Who would have thought the song that was number 1 all over the world, the iconic song from the album, would have won this ranking?
To be fair, we
given that this
tend
is
to be
the
pretty
lipstick
hit or
panel,
miss of whether we do that or not.
That's true. But
we usually pick the wrong song.
This was a pretty easy winner, except for Mike Walsh, who was wrong about this and ranked it like in the middle. So
that's ridiculous.
Who was scolding us on having controversial opinions. It's like, yeah, it's one of the lower ranked songs on the album for me. I'd Do Anything for Love. So Mike Walsh, justify your wrongness to the panel.
I mean, there's a few things I could say, a few directions I could take this. And I apologize again. I'm continuing to choke here on just like shards of
foam in the heat.
Shards of M&M shell in my throat. I'm surprised, and I am kind of surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised it would end up high. Not at all. Number 1, I'm actually a little surprised at how kind of mainstream or predictable that is, just because, you know, we're a panel of people who don't always go the mainstream route, you know. So if it had ended up at 3 or something, I might have predicted something like that. I don't know. And if I'm being completely fair, I knew from the start I was being probably a little too critical of it, because in some ways I feel like I've heard it too much and or heard like too many references to it, and that's not really fair to it. But like, you know, oh, I'll do anything well, but I won't do that. Oh, what is that? I don't know. What could it be? Is it butt stuff? I think it's butt stuff. And it's like, well, actually, if you listen to the whole song, it's explained by the end of the song. But which in that regard, I'm so sorry, I keep dying here. In that regard, does kind of point out to me what's kind of a flaw of the song. It's actually one that I think kind of maybe does go on too long. I mean, it's a very long song. It's kind of another one of those that's a mood song for me. Like, if I want to tackle that whole song, I really have to be in the mood for it. Honestly, when I am in the mood for this album, a lot of times I just start at number 2 with Life is a Lemon and I Want My Money Back and go from there. Even though this is a very well crafted song, I can get the appeal of it. It was a hit because it didn't really quite sound like a lot of other stuff, especially at that time or whatever. So it definitely stood out. But I don't know, like, it's good. I don't know. I just don't think it's the best song on the album. But I have nothing but respect for the song. And again, like I said, I'm kind of letting a lot of mainstream and publicness maybe deter it for me more than they should be. I liked it before it was
popular. Now I don't like it.
I mean, I'm not trying to be unfair, but yeah, I think just maybe the fact that, you know, there's certain songs out there that if you just hear them too much or whatever, but I don't know. What can I say? I'm surprised though that it would end up at number 1. Because I mean, like, you guys prefer spoken word over music, and yet somehow this song still ended up at number 1. That's my point. It's like,
Mike, do you want to know the secret?
You prefer
Because
weird
the song is
spoken
so
word.
fucking good. That's why it's number
That's my
one.
point. You guys, like, collectively, overall, this panel doesn't even really like music that much. You prefer spoken word, and yet you still rank the biggest song from the album as number one. So it's like, what is going on? It's crazy. It's crazy.
We may be crazy, but we ain't stupid.
There are certain pieces of music and art that are just undeniable in their greatness, unless you're a contrarian like Steve, like, yeah, you know, the Beatles kind of suck. So, but this is one of Steinman's greatest songs. You could argue his greatest song. I don't know if it's my personal favorite, but if you wanted to say what is the best Jim Steinman song and you said this, I'd be like, you know what? That is a fair fucking answer. It is the most epic love song ever done. And you can't, I mean, you could potentially make a song that's more epic of a love song, but no one's done it yet. And the thing is, when you listen to the 6-minute edit and you realize it's too short, because you need the full 12-minute version with all the instrumental changes and the brilliance of the vocal performance, but the music video is great. Michael Bay's peak. It brought us Bayhem to the world. But yeah, it's a brilliant song, top to bottom. It's perfect. The production is perfect. Vocals perfect. The great guitars, excellent drums. It has energy. And it's one of the songs I can listen to over and over on repeat, and it's long. It'll get you through that road trip where just like you listen to the song 8 times in a row, boom, time flies. Love it.
I'm glad you mentioned that single edit, because that's a weird like paradox with me, because I mentioned a couple minutes ago that it's sometimes too long of a song. I'm not always in the mood to tackle the whole thing. But like if I'm going to, I have to, because I can't like try to cheat with the single edit, because if I do, then I'm just unsatisfied. I'm like, well, this isn't right. It cut out parts that I like. So like when I'm really in the mood for it, I got to do the whole thing, and I love it and respect it. But I'm just not always in that mood, if that makes sense. Hence, not number one.
Well, Steve put us number one. I remember when Steve, with Regdar and the Fighters, he tried to shorten this song as much as he possibly could. It still ended up being like 4.5 minutes.
My goal was to get the whole thing, every single word, under 5 minutes, and I got it to just about 5 minutes, but still had to exclude like most of the duet bridge.
Yeah, you ranked this number one, Steve.
It was quite tragic. I mean, it's a great song. It's a karaoke go-to standard. It's exactly the sort of thing I want out of Steinman songs, of, you know, ridiculous 10-minute epics for no good reason that are all kinds of dramatic and, you know, have a bunch of different movements and stuff. It's great. This album is pretty great as it is, but if it was just this song 4 to 8 times, it would have been just as good, if not better.
You know, it's a fair statement. This is worth the price of admission. This is the reason you get this album, is for this song, and the rest is like our bonus tracks for this amazing song. Jamie, you put this as number one. What are your thoughts on it?
It's outrageous that the album opens with it, because what's the point in listening to the rest of the album once this is finished? It's kind of like what Steve says. It's like, you know, have any of you ever heard Michael Bolton's cover of Yesterday? He basically starts with the highest note he possibly can, and you know, once you start there, there's nowhere else to go. There's only one way down. And yeah, it's perfect, isn't it? What I love the most about it, though, because I'm very passionate about where I'm from, you see, in my little corner of the world, Lorraine Crosby is quite local to me. So Lorraine Crosby's from Newcastle, which is kind of the nearest city to me, as you'll know, because I said to Gavin before we started, why isn't there a bloody Newcastle date on your tour? It's kind of like a 40-minute drive from where I am. And Lorraine Crosby is from Newcastle and used to perform in social clubs around Newcastle, like even after this track came out. So I've been fortunate enough to actually see her perform live, and she's still excellent. And of course, she sings this every time she performs. But yeah, the track's perfect. It's exactly what you want out of a ballad.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Victor, you did not rank this as number one. What are your thoughts on this track?
Well, I mean, it's not my number one, but even me at my most contrarian and most not wanting to rank a single very high. Like, what are
In
you gonna
fairness,
do?
it's a 12-minute song. So like, oh, the
Yeah.
single.
But like the big popular song, you know, like there's just no denying it. And it is, I mean, Mike brought this up a little bit earlier. It's the thing of like, you joke about, well, what could the thing be? And then when you actually sit down and listen to the song, you find out, you know, the thing he wouldn't do for love, which is, of course, still be alive.
Oh, it took me a minute to process that. Oh no! Oh no!
That was
No, but the thing the song's
was
actually about is great too.
quick transition to Gavin. You rate this as number 2, only below Wasted Youth, which like I can't fault you for that. So
Yeah.
talk about this.
I mean, it's and you know, I will say that like yes, I this song, much like Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy, I like primarily know of as like the butt of a joke, right? Like kind of the, like it's the, you know, the sappy, you know, and you know, Boys Are Back in Town has its whole weird memification online, but they're both just fucking great songs. It's amazing that, because Bat Out of Hell 1, right, starts, of course, with Bat Out of Hell, which is one of the most epic, incredible starts to an album that is out there. And how do they follow it up? With an even more epic beginning to an album. Like, they knocked it out of the fucking park with that. It's like the whole Hoth fight scene in Empire. Even though that's not exactly right at the beginning, but it's close, you know. It's like everything on Hoth in Empire. But then again, the Star Wars thing kind of falls apart there because the beginning of Episode 4 is, of course, amazing. But yeah, I would do anything for love is like, I'll never forget the first time I heard the 12-minute version, which was shortly after we did Bat 1, or, you know, the first Bat Out of Hell. And I had no idea that there was a full 12-minute version. I thought that the single edit was it. So I was very surprised when I went and saw that it was 12 minutes. But then knowing who wrote it, I wasn't surprised at all. and God damn it, it's an amazing piece of music. It's a truly incredible piece of music. The drumming on it is phenomenal. Good old Kenny Aronoff, who'd go off to be tortured by old Nightmare Nips himself, Billy Corgan. Yeah, what can you say about this song that hasn't been said before? Shout out to the Pot of Thunder Boys.
Yep, and this is an original to this album, brand new. This isn't like, oh, the original is better. Like, this is the original, and this is with a song that made them decide, yeah, this is good enough. We should just make an album around this.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, you should. And then it made them boatloads of money. So, masterpiece. Julia, you also correctly ranked this at number 1.
Yes. You know, I too will never forget the first time I heard this song. It was about 4 days ago. And I mean, okay, that's only a half joke. I had heard literally just the chorus.
Yeah.
Just the hook. That's it. I had never ever heard any of the rest of this song before. So I got to go in and experience it all for the first time, and I was like, this kicks ass. Yeah. I mean, yeah, some songs are classics for a reason. And you can clearly see why with this one.
Well,
He also says at one point, I won't forgive myself if we don't go all the way tonight. Which is an
One thing
amazing
he won't
lyric.
do is forgive himself for not having sex.
which is a very Jim Steinman lyric. Like, but we have to have sex.
I'll die. I have blue balls. Man, my balls are terminal.
Damn.
Coochie now. Coochie me, please. I'm just
All right. Well, we have been
on that note.
we have been recording for many hours at this point, so I think
Several of them.
Yes. So I think it's a good time to wrap up with closing thoughts and plugs. And so my closing thoughts are the same as my opening thoughts. I think this is a great album, but I think most of the songs are better in their original versions. However, this album gave us one of the best Jim Steinman songs, arguably the best. There's a couple other contenders. Many choose Total Eclipse of the Heart. Many choose It's All Coming Back to Me Now. But it is in the conversation of top Jim Steinman song. And like I said, like, worth it for that alone. Excellent album. Just there are other Jim Steinman Meat Loaf albums I prefer to it. Steve, closing thoughts.
I think it's a great album. I would do anything for love. Is, as has been said several times, worth the price of admission. Great album. Meat Loaf will be missed. Although he, based on Braver Than We Are, I guess I wasn't expecting him to do any more great albums anytime soon.
He actually did a live performance of Out of the Frying Pan and Into the Fire recently, and actually his voice was back. And
oh yeah,
it sounded really excellent, and it was looking like he was getting on the up and up. So good performance of that. I believe it was on Huckabee. He was on Huckabee.
Oh right, I forgot.
But here's
that's the kind of person Meat Loaf is.
But here's the thing: Meat Loaf gets some flack for being a far right winger online. As someone who actually followed him, I think some of that was hyperbole drummed up in the press, because as he was promoting the Huckabee appearance, he's like, "Hey guys, not a lot of places will book me. They booked me. Please don't make this about politics and just enjoy the music. I don't want to talk about anything right, left. Just enjoy the music." And so a lot of Trumpers will just be like, "Fuck your feelings, libs." So I think that he is a little bit more balanced and nuanced than given credit for.
No wonder you like him, centrist Greg.
Yeah, centrist Greg likes that. But I just wanted to state that. Victor, what are your thoughts on this album? Now you've been exposed to several Meat Loaf Steinman projects. How do you feel about this one as a connoisseur of the arts?
Of the medium. This was one where I like listening to Bat Out of Hell, the first time. It was almost instantly like, oh, this is just brilliant. This is toe to tip. But this one caught me a little off guard by being so uneven. And the more I listened to it, the more it grew on me. And now I have a lot of affection for it. And this happened a lot faster, actually, than it did for Bad for Good. Even, which I'm appreciative of. And I will agree. The production overall of this album is fantastic. And yeah, some of the new songs are among the best, which is also very nice. And to have a fully furnished version of Rock and Roll or the Wasted Youth track is that's the price of admission thing for me. So,
and Jamie, how about you? Closing thoughts.
Well, in my crazy opinion, this is Meat Loaf's best album, so I bloody love it. I think it's great. I'm glad we got to do this ranking because it gave me an excuse, not that I need one, to listen to the album again, but also chat about it. I'm just disappointed you all like the skits as much as you do.
Again, why are either of you surprised by that?
I didn't say I was surprised.
I guess it shouldn't be.
I'm not surprised. I'm just disappointed.
I just go about my life like making sense, and then I forget you guys are you guys sometimes. That's all.
Says the guy who ranked "I'd Do Anything for Love" in the lower half of the album.
Yeah,
it was like right around the middle, right?
You gave it 5 points out of a possible 11.
You say that like it's a defense.
No, right in the middle, basically. Yeah.
Anyway, Mike, your closing thoughts.
I mean, kind of like Jamie said, if you had to ask me definitely what my favorite Meat Loaf album is, if I'm gonna grab one, it's going to be this one. Obviously, the first Bat Out of Hell, bigger, more hit songs have lasted more. You hear them at more things. Although I'd Do Anything for Love is up there as well. But so obviously culturally and what made an impact on music was the first one. But for my personal tastes, front to back, I'm going to pick out number 2. Like I said way earlier, I feel like as a whole album, it's like the most complete on a single album that we've ever and will ever now experience, like a Jim Steinman vision project with just big vocals and long ass songs and crazy titles and lyrics and excellent production to do it justice and all that great stuff. So it's an album I actually think more highly of than I often realize it, because it's not one that I listen to on a weekly or even monthly basis, and yet every time I listen to it, I'm very pleased. I'm like, oh man, so much great stuff on this one. Some great old memories, some great new memories now with Good Girls Go to Heaven. I just did not realize how much I liked that one until really doing this ranking, so that's super cool. Oh, and I wanted to throw it out there as an opening song collectively to the group. Bat Out of Hell or I'd Do Anything for Love. Which song do you guys take?
Bat Out of Hell.
Yeah, Bat Out of Hell for me.
I gotta do.
I would do anything for love, I think.
I'd say most days Bat Out of Hell, but some days I'd Do Anything for Love. But like 80-20 split.
Yeah, I'm probably closest to you, Greg. Most of the time I'm going to take Bat Out of Hell, but there's some boxes inside my soul that I'd Do Anything for Love ticks that maybe Bat Out of Hell doesn't, but overall Bat Out of Hell.
And Gavin, your closing thoughts on the album. When you unmute yourself. Gavin, you muted.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Worse.
Well, The Empire Strikes Back is a better movie than Star Wars, but that does not mean that Star Wars: A New Hope is not also a brilliant, amazing film. I think on the whole, I prefer Bat 2, but Bat 2 is amazing. Though the song Bat Out of Hell, I still think is my favorite of the Steinman and Loferman collabos. The question I will pose to you is this: who has to die for us to do Bat 3?
Desmond Child?
Desmond Child? Okay.
Yeah, that's who Desmond Child. We could like sort of barely justify it with Brian May, but that'd be a stretch. That would piss off Jamie.
Or we could just do Bat 3 in a few months.
Yeah, we could just do it to be like, hey, why wait for someone else
in our
to
back
die?
pocket till Desmond Child dies.
That's a little dark. But I think
Clock's ticking, Desmond.
Bat 3, I think, is going to spark the most interesting conversations of the bunch. Just because I think it's ultimately a more interesting. Like I said, it's the Elder. But I think you know what? That's a whole other can of worms. We've been going for like 4.5 hours.
I was going to say that bringing up either that album or Gish or anything like that is just going to tack on another album hour.
Worse than a chair drop.
But that is a very interesting album. I think that would be the best word to describe it. Would be interesting.
It's got Steve Vai on it, I read.
Steve Vai, Brian May, John Five, a lot of really talented musicians on there, and a lot of great
Meat
songs.
Loaf.
And Meat Loaf. And also, some of the songs are better than the Steinman originals.
Whoa, really?
Some are not. But it's a weird album. It's definitely the darkest of the trilogy. That's a whole other conversation. We've been going so long.
I haven't eaten today, really.
Yeah.
Us either.
I had one Oreo during the recording of this podcast.
Julia, closing thoughts on this album.
Thoughts. Same thing I said at the beginning. This is a great album. I do like the first one more. Still good though.
All right, fair enough. And plugs. Gavin, plug your stuff.
I'm in a band. I play drums in Bent Knee, who you can find at Bent Knee Music. betneymusic.com, as well as Betney Music on all the major socials, your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, all of that. I have my own Patreon down at Patreon/GavinWA. I stream on Twitch. Go to twitch.tv/GavinWA42. I teach drum lessons. So if you're looking for drum lessons, via the internets, find me on social media and message me.
And you smoke meats.
And I smoke meats and make beats.
Whoa. New bio.
So
New
true.
bio.
New bio. Mike Walsh, what do you want to plug this week?
I will plug Chicago's premier singer, songwriter, guitarist, Brian Durbin. He's been releasing some solo material recently. There are music videos for his songs Don't Let Go and Feeling Myself. He recently released Shake This City, and he has a new one coming out on Friday called Give Me Your Love Tonight. It is an original. It is not the Whitesnake song, as he has pointed out. I'm not just randomly saying that. So yeah, check out singer, songwriter, guitarist from Chicago, Brian Durbin, if you like rock music, which no one on this panel really likes, but maybe someone listening to it might enjoy. If you enjoy spoken word, Brian Durbin is not for you.
I listen to nothing but JRPG soundtracks and Dua Lipa nowadays, so I don't like
Dua
that
Lipa
anymore.
is one of the premier of her type in recent, maybe the past 10 years. So yes, good music coming from Dua
Well,
Lipa.
I like Oliver Tree.
I like Oliver Twist.
Ooh, Dickensian. That's the next episode. We rank all of our favorite Dickens novels.
Let's go.
I mean,
It's a lot of reading.
if you want,
I don't have any expectations for that.
Ayo.
Heyo. Jamie, plugs.
I don't like Dua Lipa very much. I think I probably should now because I'm English, but my voice is boring. Never really goes anywhere.
Levitating is such a fire song, dude.
Nah, America must
It's
just...
interesting because I one of the reasons I like her is I feel like her voice is better and more interesting than a lot of her ilk. So interesting.
Well, fair. My name's Jamie. I'm in a band called Be Quiet, Shout Loud that can be found everywhere. We've been pretty inactive for 2 years.
Why? What
Don't-
happened?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not really sure what happened, but something happened. I think we just couldn't be asked. But yeah, we're picking things back up again. So check us out on the socials or check us out on streaming platforms. You might like it, or you might think it's a bit shit.
Victor.
Hey, you can find me at the VictasticK on Twitter, or you can find my music under the name James Gameboy on pretty much all of the things. We also did a music video for my song Moth GF, which recently lost an award at a local film festival.
Local.
And very proud of that video. Julia is also in the video, which is very fun.
I'm a moth.
Not a GF though.
No.
And I also did a couple of short film scores, so I don't know how widely circulated they're going to be, but Midnight Rhythms and Reply from Mailer Demon. I'm proud of the music I did.
And these are both about fathers and their daughters, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Estranged daughters. That's an important part.
Old boy syndrome.
It makes the later, incest that occurs much more palatable.
Yes. And then, maybe I'll get that album done I've been talking about since I started this damn podcast. But
Oh yeah, that album of all like ambient instrumental Jim Steinman covers.
correct. Yeah.
And Julia.
Hi, I'm Julia, and I'm at Lady Celery on Instagram. You can see my artwork there, or follow me, same handle on Twitter, where I'm just fully insane.
And Steve, I don't even know where people can find us on the internet these days, so...
I mean, lipstickgeneration.com still exists, and all our social media accounts still exist, even if we haven't posted anything on them lately. Although, I guess there'll be a new podcast episode up on our website when they listen to this. I'll probably rebuild the website sometime soon. I'm gradually doing that with all my sites. Oh, check it out. There's a brand new regdarinthefighters.com where you can find me, at least, and buy my hoodie and stuff.
Yeah, buy his hoodie. I'm retired. I came out of retirement for this shit. That's the episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, I should have plugged my stuff. Whatever.
Well, you're retired, so